Hello, I'm back. Been away for a while. Yeah, just had some things happen that, you gotta deal with, that's life. But we're back. I finally have a schedule, so let me just find it real quick. Even though I've literally just written it, I've already forgotten what it is. But I've had a lot of you say that you miss the horror content, which is fine. I'm with you. I miss it too. So we're gonna bring that back as well. But I finally have a schedule, so I can fit everything for everyone to keep everyone happy. So essentially, I don't know if I can show it on the stream. I know there's a way, but I'm not with it, so I don't know how to do it right. But essentially, so Monday is going to be Minecraft days, just because Eminem just makes sense. Tuesdays will be no stream. Wednesday will be Grounded streams. Grounded 2 is coming out. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for it. It looks absolutely sick. You can like ride things in it and stuff, and it's so cool. Apparently the map tour is going to be 3 times bigger, which I love. Because as you guys know, I get bored very fucking easily. So there's a reason why I play modded Minecraft and not vanilla, because I need a lot to do. Otherwise, I cut out very, very quickly. So I'm excited for Grounded. That's early release, I think, or early access, whatever you call it, is in July at the end, I think. Is it 27th or 29th? I could be wrong. I know it's in July. I think it's towards the end of the month. But I am excited for that. So Wednesday will be probably Grounded 2. Grounded until Grounded 2 comes out. Obviously, when Grounded 2 comes out, we'll play that. Sorry, Hazel's coming in right on time. She's always here when I'm talking. Thursdays, sorry, I'm reading off the list here in front of me. Thursdays are true crime and horror story nights, because we're going to bring those back. They were really good when I did them frequently, so being Thursday today, true crime, horror night. Fridays will be horror games, so Monday and Fridays just straight Minecraft on a Monday. Friday will just be horror games. And Saturday, Sundays are no stream, as well as Tuesday, just to give me a little break. But if I feel like streaming, I might stream on those days, and that'll be whatever. Whether it's Minecraft, horrors, a video, whatever it may be. So we finally have a schedule after like 2 years of not having one. Incredibly late, but it's there. It is on my Twitch. I will put it on my YouTube banner though, for those of you who are on YouTube, because obviously we dual stream to both Twitch and YouTube, so some of you guys are watching, obviously, from the other platform. Anyway, that's enough fucking waffling on from me. Let's get into this. So we're starting with, as you can see at the top there, one of Australia's worst ever cases. We are watching this from Disturbin, which we've had before. We do like Disturbin on this channel. Their content is always pretty good. Sometimes I've got to skip through things or skip a video altogether because it gets a bit too much. I know it's already on YouTube, but I don't want to push the boundaries with Twitch, so we'll see how we go. But I'm curious, because being an Australian, one of Australia's worst ever cases, I may know this, I may not, so yeah. I'm going to shut up now and let's get on with this.
A town called Ingham, nestled away in North...
Fuck me, that's loud. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Jesus, Lord Almighty. I am sorry if whoever's ears just got blown out. Mine certainly fucking did.
Queensland. Leonard was the 4th of 5 other siblings.
Like usual, guys, sorry. Like usual, if it's too loud, let me know. I'll put it down. If it's too low, I'll turn it up. Y'all know the deal. Y'all know the deal. By the way, I've literally been here, so this is uncomfortable for me. Because as you guys may know, I used to live in Cairns. So, yeah, great.
Seemingly typical family structure. His mother assumed the role of a stay-at-home housewife, while his father, a veteran of World War II, pursued a career as a machinist, often spending prolonged periods of time away from home due to work commitments. Despite the facade of a post-World War II dream, the family was plagued by a significant and harrowing event. This set the wheels in motion for the creation of one of Australia's most chilling and disturbing serial killers. In 1952, Leonard's older brother was taking a ride on a piece of heavy machinery called a grader. This particular machine is used to flatten surfaces. As the machine bounced and rattled, his poor brother fell from the machine and unfortunately landed in front of the rear tire. By the time the vehicle was
fuck
stopped,
that.
it was already too late.
Dude,
A
those machines are
grief-stricken
heavy.
environment is a tough place to
You
grow
wouldn't make
up.
it.
Leonard quickly became an aggressive child, full of rage, hard to please, and prone to tantrums. This was not helped by the turbulence that came from moving around throughout his youth for his father's work, always having to start fresh at new schools, and being afflicted with a speech impediment meant he struggled with forming friendships and long-lasting bonds. Not only that, but the disruption to his schooling may be the reason why the educational authorities branded him as having a low IQ. Throughout his youth, he was known to steal from time to time, putting his knowledge of machine and mechanics to practice. By the time he was 15, he would steal parts from cars, and at the same time, his aggression was on the rise, often taking illegal substances, fighting, and even threatening women, saying that he would force himself upon them. These crimes eventually landed him in Gosford Boys' Home, in an attempt by law enforcement to nip his criminality in the bud, teaching him how to be a good lad the harder way. There he served 2 sentences across 1 year. Like many youth correctional facilities, they became congregations of early criminals, giving them all the ability to network and to learn new abhorrent tricks and crimes. It was a terrible position to be in as an impressionable and tainted teenager, a true dog-eat-dog environment. This would be the place where Leonard would learn to take what he wanted whenever he wanted. Leonard was the victim of older inmates asserting themselves on him, so he did the same to younger inmates. He forced himself upon them, just like the older ones had done to him. To this day, it is not known how many occasions he was a victim or a perpetrator of SA while he was in Gosford. After 1 year, Leonard was released, more aggressive and more dangerous than ever. His mother would later say that she felt like he had a split personality. One moment he was nice, and the next he would be vicious. As his crimes continued to escalate in severity, by 1968, when Leonard was 17, he brutally assaulted a railway guard, landing himself on probation until 1970.
Would he still be in prison?
February of 1971, Leonard was jailed for 6 months for Grand Theft Auto. After being released, he stole another car and drove to Townsville. He was caught and served another 9 months in prison. By 1972, at the age of 21, Leonard was adopted by all that was criminal, and he moved to King's Cross, Sydney. King's Cross at the time was infamous for criminality.
Let me search this guy.
It was here where he worked as a pimp and spent large proportions of his income on alcohol and illegal substances, fueling his hobby of street fighting. Later that year, on the 17th of October, Leonard got into an altercation with his roommate, which resulted in him storming off. Whilst in his fit of rage, he found himself in the Botanical Garden in Sydney. Perhaps this was an intentional decision to calm down in the serenity of nature. However, knowing what was about to happen, I think not. It seems that Leonard was looking to take his anger out on whoever was unfortunate enough to approach him. A 37-year-old French tourist and mother of 2 innocently approached Leonard for directions.
I feel bad. It's
In a
always like a
chilling
friendly
and utterly
tourist and
sinister
shit.
maneuver,
Like, you can't just
Leonard
not feel bad for
deliberately
him.
directed her down a path he knew wouldn't lead her to her intended destination. He then proceeded to follow her. He grabbed this woman from behind, beat her black and blue, and then dragged her behind a tree, where he proceeded to force himself upon her. Leonard was sentenced to 5 years in prison for crimes completely unrelated to the essay at the Botanical Gardens. Instead, he was charged with a series of attacks, but only spent a fraction of the sentence in prison after being released at the age of 23 in 1974. In keeping with his ever-escalating crimes, within the first 3 weeks of his release, Leonard Frazier essayed 3 separate women. One lady was stalked by Leonard before he dragged her out of sight towards an embankment, and there he forced himself upon her. What makes this even more disturbing is how after the incident, he made her walk with him from the scene of the crime holding hands, under the threat of further assaults. Leonard then fled. Next, in July of 1974, he stalked another woman near the Great Western Shopping Centre in Mount Druitt. She was alone, innocently picking up her dry-cleaned clothing. Like a true predator, Leonard devised a plan to pretend to collect his dry cleaning, following her into the back room, where he tried to restrain her, bending her arms behind her and forcing her to the floor. Luckily, this attack did not end with Leonard getting what he wanted, as the woman managed to set herself free and escape. Furious and unsatisfied, 3 days later, Leonard went on the hunt for his next victim and proceeded with a more direct approach. This time, he walked up to the woman and within seconds, he savagely punched her in the face and attempted to assert himself on her. This time, as he was removing his clothing, the woman managed to persuade him that instead of going through with this act, they should both go back to her house and have consensual sex. As I mentioned earlier, Leonard had a low IQ. Luckily, he fell for this deception, and the woman managed to escape, alerting her neighbouring houses. In a fit of panic, Leonard scrambled for his belongings, but as he ran away, he dropped his wallet, containing no less than his birth certificate and documentation containing his name and address. As you might expect, he was taken into police custody and questioned. The police suspected Leonard of a series of essays, to which he confessed. During this confession, he included the French tourist he attacked in Sydney, and despite his best efforts to represent himself, a 21-year prison sentence. Whilst in prison, he was diagnosed with classical psychopathy, of which there is no known treatment, and one would determine that such a man would continue to be a threat to society if he would ever be released. But as some of you already might know from my previous videos, the Australian legal system is rather lenient. Despite earning the nickname of Lenny the Loon in prison, he was released at the age of 30 in 1981, having served 7 years of his 21-year prison sentence.
See, that's not enough.
There are many who still question this gross...
Like, for what he did to only have to serve 7 years out of 21, and they just let him go. That's fucked up. Like, there's a reason why crime here in Australia is so fucking messed up, because of shit like this. 7 years. Wasn't even halfway through his sentence, and they just went, no, you're fucking good, go back into society. Like, excuse me, what the actual fuck?
Negligence, and rightly so. It points blame towards the correctional system. It was noted by guards that he was still a threat, yet he was still allowed to be released. After his release,
even
Leonard
the guards
moved
said
to Hare Point in
up.
Queensland. This was where his parents lived, and he started to work a steady job as a labourer with little evidence of any law-breaking. That was until he regained a taste for it. Leonard noticed a woman trying to sell her car, so he approached her, and the encounter took a terrible turn. Leonard attacked the woman whilst in her own house, with her husband sitting in another room. Despite his appalling record, Leonard managed to avoid being locked up for a long time and was only sentenced to 2 months in jail for aggravated assault. In 1982, when Leonard was 31, he struck up a relationship with Pearl Rigby, a 26-year-old single mother with a son, offering him a semblance of stability.
I'm sorry, but there's like a national register for guys like him. How the fuck does a woman with a kid get with a guy like him? Was this bitch just fucking blind? Like, who the fuck, knowing what he's done, because there would be a public fucking record of it because of the shit he's done, would fucking bring a child near him? That's fucked up. That's so messed up.
Amidst his chaotic life. At the time, Leonard...
Sorry, I thought someone was at my fucking house. My dog's losing her shit.
Worked as a foreman at Queensland Rail, where his reputation for partying earned him the nickname Animal. Although known for his rowdy behaviour, Leonard's interactions with Pearl were notably turned down, especially when compared to his previous interactions with women, with reports suggesting only one instance of physical confrontation where he slapped her in the face. This marked a significant shift for Leonard, who, for the first time, found steady employment and settled into a domestic life, a stark contrast to his previous nomadic lifestyle littered by spells of incarceration. But the inner predator returned. In 1985, when he was 34 years old, Leonard reverted to stalking women, targeting one at Shoal Beach north of Mackay. He employed tactics that he learned from Gosforth Boys' Home. He made advances on the woman, taking what he wanted as he wanted it, disregarding her protests. In an attempt to defend herself, the woman suggested they continue at her house under the guise of consent. Leonard, having previously been duped by the same tactic, didn't believe her, and then he continued the attack, forcing himself on her. Even though Leonard went to his friend's house straight after the attack, looking for some kind of alibi, it wasn't long before law enforcement arrived at Leonard's house. Pearl would soon learn the horrific truth about Leonard's history, and he was arrested and locked up again. This time, Leonard was sentenced to 12 years imprisonment at the Rockhampton's Creek prison, and he served every second of that sentence. In January of 1997, when he was...
But see, if they had just kept him in prison for the full 21 years, that would not have happened again. It may have when he left after 21 years, but that was still in the time frame that that woman would have been fine and saved if the Australian justice system had just done their fucking job. Like, I don't get it, like...
46 years old, Leonard was released, and he started living with a woman named Marie Shivers. The two had communicated as pen pals during his sentence. Marie believed that Leonard was a good man, and that he was just being screwed by the system, just as Leonard wanted. During their time living together, Leonard became abusive, so much so that Marie's mother Vera once found bruises all up her arm. So she confronted Leonard whilst in the public outside of a Woolworths shop, only for Leonard to respond with more violence, threatening in public that he would slice their throats. Marie became very ill, diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she required treatment in Brisbane. Marie told Leonard that this time it was unlikely that she would be coming back. Leonard tried his best to see her one last time. He hitchhiked from Rockhampton to Brisbane, but this wasn't an act of compassion. On arrival, Leonard escorted her to the hospital chapel, locked the door, and violently assaulted her in ways too heinous to imagine. He left Marie lying on the floor. Marie, in her dying days, courageously told her story to her mother about the assault. 2 weeks later, she passed away. Leonard next moved to Mount Morgan, where he quickly came to the attention of law enforcement. They kept an eye on him, but this never prevented countless essays upon 16 women. He would befriend them and sometimes have consensual relationships before they turned abusive. Many of the locals were suspicious, but they were silenced by Leonard under the threat that if they ever went to the police, a motorcycle gang would come to town and deal with them. By 1998, with no formal complaints registered with the police, Leonard was run out of the town back to Rockhampton, where things began to severely escalate. In 1998, at the age of 47, Leonard started a relationship with a 19-year-old cognitively disabled lady called Chrissy. As a result of her disability, Chrissy was particularly vulnerable and fell prey to Leonard's wickedness. Their relationship became inevitably very controlling. A chilling precursor for what was to happen next, Leonard, in a fit of rage, decided to kill
Like, I know that
Chrissy's
she's
2
legal in
kittens.
Australia, but that's fucked
Not
up.
only this, he
Like,
was
does her
caught
family
forcing
not
himself
know?
upon her female dog. When Chrissy confronted him about these acts of cruelty, she kicked him out of her house. However, 1 week later, Leonard took his revenge. He murdered her dog by poisoning her food bowl. Unfortunately, in spite of killing her pets, Chrissy stayed with Leonard, all while he was out stalking and assaulting other women with disabilities, and during this time, he started to murder. On the 7th of December 1998, Julie Dawn Turner went to a pub for some drinks. although she arrived heavily intoxicated. The bouncer realised what state she was in, and he arranged a cab for her to take her home safely. But Julie never made it back. Julie herself was in a troubled relationship at home with her partner. She worked with Leonard, and whilst they were at work, she would confide in him about her troubles. Leonard presented himself as caring and charming. When Julie left the pub that one fateful night, little did she know that she was being stalked by Leonard Frazier, her supposed friend. As Julie walked home, Leonard attacked her, punching her in the back of the head while she rolled a cigarette. He then brutally assaulted her, breaking her neck and strangling her. Once he was sure she was dead, he proceeded to violate her body. He then disposed of incriminating evidence, including his bloody shirt and Julie's clothing, before returning to his girlfriend Chrissy, with Julie's body in the boot of his car. Whilst Chrissy was sleeping, Leonard took a shower, changed his clothes, and asked Chrissy if she wanted to go out for a drive, accompanying him whilst he disposed of Julie's body. Chrissy declined, unaware of Leonard's ulterior motives, and she passed on driving to Kinka Beach, where he pulled up at a spot, took her body out of the car, and carried her down a dense track into the bushland, and hid her body under sticks and leaves. Now, if this wasn't disturbing enough, Leonard wasn't finished. He returned several times in the following weeks, asserting himself on the corpse. Eventually, he would cut her head off, and what exactly he did with the head isn't known. However, within the next 2 years, her body was found. 3 months later, on March the 1st, 1999,
It took 2 years,
Leonard
though.
struck
Within the
again.
next 2 years.
This time a woman who would go on to be listed as missing for years before the evidence of her tragic end was realised. Beverly Lego was a 36-year-old woman who was deeply burdened by a tragic and traumatic past. Beverly was once duped into a modelling career, only to be hooked on illegal substances, trafficked, and forced to sell her body. When she escaped her past and returned to her home, it left her with schizophrenia and made her a very vulnerable person. As a result, she was taken advantage of and ended up in a terrible relationship. Leonard had prior knowledge of Beverly, as her partner had served alongside him in jail. Strangely enough, they had even resided in Mount Morgan around the same period as Leonard. One day, Leonard offered Beverly a friendly ride home from shopping, but an argument erupted in the car as she rejected his advances, leading to Leonard violently attacking her afterward. Leonard killed Beverly, and again, not knowing what to do with her body, he callously disposed of her in the bushland, violating her corpse before he left the crime scene. Soon after this murder, Leonard would strike again. On the 18th of April 1999, the tragic fate of 19-year-old Sylvia Marie unfolded at the hands of Leonard. Drawn in by the allure of illegal substances and the promise of shelter, Sylvia encountered Leonard through a mutual acquaintance at a local Centrelink. Sylvia was a remarkable artist who had an obsession with the macabre. She would often incorporate paint blood spatters into her work, and she used to repeat a premonition to all of those whom she met. This premonition was that she would not live past the age of 21 and would meet her end in a brutal attack. Tragically, little did she know her premonitions were to become a reality. At this time, Leonard occasionally squatted in a desolate, boarded-up hotel in Rockhampton, meters from a local police station. He met with Sylvia and ushered her into room 13 under the guise of sharing in the use of recreational illegal substances. Leonard leant in for a kiss, but Sylvia rejected his advancement. This was met with violence to the highest degree. Leonard shattered Sylvia's skull, ejecting bone fragments and teeth, causing blood spatters to spray up the derelict hotel room wall and ceiling, leaving her defenseless against further brutality. After killing Sylvia, he yet again violated her body. Leonard then wrapped her head up in a towel, carrying her downstairs into the gents' toilets, dripping blood as he went. Once in the hotel's derelict bathroom, he placed the body of Sylvia over a drain. After the horrifying events, Sylvia's blood made it into his car, and later evidence of her DNA was found on the rear passenger seat, armrest, driver's seat, and on cigarette papers in his glove box, indicating that Leonard likely had a post-murder cigarette. He left her there, draining her body of blood via her skull for 3 days, only going back to the scene of the crime once he found out that the building was scheduled to be demolished. He retrieved the body and buried her at Sandy Point in a shallow grave. She wouldn't be found for another 18 months. Undoubtedly to this day, the scale of his murdering spree is not fully known. These cases were only uncovered after a large-scale investigation and after information was leaked by a cellmate. However, this would only happen when he was caught and found guilty of the next and final murder. You may believe that this case can't get any worse.
How does someone this violent get let back into society, though?
On the 22nd of April 1999,
Like...
Leonard set his eyes on Kira Steinhardt, who was 9. She had just started walking home from school by herself without her parents and was on her 10th day of doing so.
Did I hear that fucking
really
right?
Wanted to join her peers. Just started walking home from school by her. On the 22nd of April 1999, Leonard set his eyes on Kira Steinhardt, who was 9. She had just
I was
started
really
walking
hoping I
home
heard
from
that
school
wrong, but
by
that makes it so
herself
much
without
worse.
her parents and was on her 10th day of doing so. She really wanted to join her peers and cycle home, but her stepfather would never allow this, as he thought it was too unsafe to ride in traffic. Kira was brought up well. She was well educated and knew never to talk to strangers under any circumstances. And in an attempt to stay safe, she would walk a long while with her friends before cutting through a vacant allotment near Rockhampton High School, reducing her walk to no more than 30 minutes. Little did she know that a man around the age of 45 was following her for a second day in a row. On the first day, it is theorized that Leonard was working out the exact path she took home, possibly a tactic deployed often for many of his stalked victims or near victims. This time, at around 3:30 p.m, as Kira was crossing the allotment, Leonard closed in behind her, and with a single blow he bludgeoned the back of her head with his fists, and she fell to the ground in an area of tall grass. Leonard stood and looked over her unconscious body. He went to the ground and proceeded to force himself on her for a period of 20 minutes. Leonard, not knowing what to do with the body, took off his shirt, wrapped her body up in it, and placed her in the boot of his red sedan car. In the coming days, the Australian authorities sprung a huge search and rescue mission
Is that actually
to find
his car? Because I'm never going to own a Mazda again.
The details of the
I never
tragic
have,
event
but I
that
never fucking
unfolded
will
on
if
the
I know
vacant
he's fucking
allotment
owned one.
are only known due to an eyewitness account that observed the whole thing. They came forward to the police and provided an anonymous tip. The eyewitnesses were an elderly couple sitting on their porch overlooking the allotments.
I was going to say, if there was an fucking witness, why do they not stop him? I know they're elderly, but I still would have fucking brought out a baseball bat or some shit. Like, what the fuck?
The woman was claiming that she saw a man, the same man as the day before, stalking a girl with blonde hair. The male eyewitness dismissed this, saying it was her father and that there was nothing to worry about. Once the male eyewitness went inside for a beverage, the woman noticed Leonard hitting young Kira on the back of the head and claimed both Leonard and Kira were on the ground for 20 minutes. Why didn't they shout or make themselves known? The couple did not alert the authorities for at least 20 minutes, a delay which outraged the community. Following the savage attack on Kira, Leonard proceeded with his routine, devoid of any remorse. After returning home and cleansing himself of the bloodshed, he collected his unsuspecting girlfriend, Chrissy. Unknown to her, Kira's lifeless body lay concealed in the trunk of his vehicle. Once they both arrived at the designated location to dispose of Kira's remains, Leonard instructed Chrissy to look away. Chrissy later told the authorities that her initial belief was that the object in question was nothing more than a doll, blissfully unaware of the horror that lay before her. The disappearance of Kira was broadcast far and wide, and it wouldn't take long for Leonard to be caught. A man who worked for a prison just so happened to be near the school picking up his daughter when he saw Leonard lurking around the school on the day that Kira went missing. He noticed that Leonard was even wearing the same clothing identified by the eyewitness account. This man realized that Leonard was likely responsible for the disappearance, so he informed the authorities and told them that he believed he knew who had taken Kira. Detectives rushed to the premises of Leonard Frazier and also identified his red sedan. When confronted, he claimed he had no idea what the police were talking about. Not convinced, the police unit apprehended him and took him to the police station along with his girlfriend Chrissy. A thorough search of his house unveiled a horrific trove of collectibles, assuming from his previous victims. This consisted of
They always
books,
collect shit, it
bags,
grosses me out.
diaries, jewelry, vacuum cleaners full of dirt, and even a bag filled with children's ponytails, some of which were saturated with lice. This, along with bloodstains throughout his red sedan, was not enough to force a confession out of Leonard, or a location where he may be keeping her. This was enough to prosecute him with the abduction of Kira, but not enough for murder. Leonard was questioned further, but he claimed he had a foggy recollection of the event, and he couldn't recall what he did or where he put
Why's he
her.
got a fucking cigarette
It
when he's
wouldn't be
cocked?
until 13 days later that Leonard finally told law enforcement where her body was. This may seem like an arbitrary number of days to pass, however, despite Leonard's low IQ, he knew this was no random period. It is theorized that he left it nearly 2 weeks so that any DNA remnants of his SA would be destroyed. Leonard had left Kira near a tree covered with grass, with what appeared to be a cut across the neck. In September of the year 2000, the Brisbane Supreme Court found Leonard John Fraser guilty of abducting and killing Kira. The judge described him as a predator of the worst kind, sentencing him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Luckily, Leonard placed his trust in a fellow inmate who would become an informant and managed to extract a map from Leonard, with many of his victims labelled. It also does need to be mentioned that it is not 100% confirmed that Leonard defiled the bodies of the victims after their deaths. There was not enough substantial evidence to convict him of this crime. However, there was a large amount of circumstantial evidence, leading to many working on the case and many experts to conclude that he did do this. This relationship with the informant led to the discovery of many victims and the uncovering of their final moments. This included Julie Dawn Turner, Beverly Lego, and Sylvia Marie. There was also another suspected victim. Leonard had been suspected and charged of the disappearance of a woman by the name of Natasha Ryan. Leonard claimed to have forced himself on and killed her, and she had been missing for some time. But during the trial, she was found at her boyfriend's home years after her disappearance. She had been in hiding. This caused some issues with the court proceedings, and even almost ruined the entire trial. Thankfully, however, the trial would go ahead. Leonard was found guilty of these murders, and he was given 3 indefinite jail terms. The judge who was involved described him as an untreatable psychopath. At 4 a.m. on the morning of New Year's Day 2007, Leonard John Fraser passed away from a cardiac arrest. Many people who knew of Leonard were happy that another murderous psychopath left this earth, never to hurt another innocent person again.
See, people like him are the reason why we need to have the fucking death penalty. Not for a case of just having it for anyone, but people like him. I feel like you can make an exception. For someone as disgusting and as awful as him, I feel like you can allow it. You know what I mean? Like, what they said 16, at the beginning of the video, they said 16 people, plus about 8 or so that they mentioned. And that's only on who they knew. There could be a fucking lot more. So for like 20 plus people, that's pretty fucked up. Like, I feel like he should have just been fucking removed from the world way beforehand. Alright, we might see Mr. Ball. It's been a while since we've seen his videos, but his are pretty good. He's usually got some pretty good stuff. This one looks fucked up, actually. The family tradition one. I might look at that. I want to pick too big of videos. So I want us to be able to watch quite a few. So I don't really want to pick the massive ones. They ate the forbidden meat. I'm gonna try with that one. We'll start with this one and we'll see how we go, because we've also got the other two
Today,
channels that are also really good.
Strange but true
But Mr.
stories.
Ballin's always good. I've never had a bad video from this guy.
Today
So
is
credit to him,
absolutely
this video is his.
So if that's not your thing, you've been warned. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we...
Sorry, we're skipping the intro. Sorry. Oh, that last one.
On the morning of September 23rd,
Sorry to start in such a
1839,
gruesome one. I wasn't
an
expecting it
experienced
to be
sailor named
like
Captain
that.
Brighton stood on the deck of his ship, which was traveling through the Drake Passage, which is located right along the northern coast of Antarctica. He and his crew had sailed here because they were professional whalers, and they had heard there was this massive population of whales in the Drake Passage that basically were untouched
I'd love to see
by
whales in
humanity,
person. I reckon that'd be sick.
because basically nobody sailed this far. This was a freezing cold, very austere part of the world, kind of a dangerous place to be. But so far, Captain Brighton and his crew had not seen a single whale. And on top of that, the Drake Passage had proven to be as dangerous as expected. Just the previous night, the ocean around the ship had literally frozen, basically anchoring the ship in place. And so when this happened, Captain Brighton realized, like, there was nothing they could even do about this. I mean, they were stuck. And if this didn't break up soon, they'd be stuck here all winter potentially, and it was unclear if they could actually survive that. But fortunately, also the previous night, this massive storm rolled in, which, that's dangerous in and of itself. But the severity of the storm was actually a good thing, because it broke up the ice around the ship and allowed Captain Brighton to sail away. And so now, that morning, the ocean was again, liquid, so they were able to move around, but Captain Brighton had a very difficult decision to make. Again, so far they have not caught any whales, and they've invested a lot of time and money to get out here. But, if he stayed out here much longer, he knew they could potentially get stranded again, and he just couldn't let that happen. And so he needed to decide if he was going to keep on sailing further into the Drake Passage to maybe find a couple whales, or leave now before it was too late. But as Captain Brighton weighed his options, he suddenly noticed something over the horizon. There was this dark shape. And at first, he actually thought he was hallucinating, because really, there's nothing else out here. It's just him and ocean and ice. That was it. But as he continued to stare in the direction of this dark object, which was actually getting closer to him, he realized it was a real thing, and in fact, it was another ship, which was really surprising, because again, nobody really comes out here. And so his instincts were, okay, this has got to be a rival
Not a real
whale
photo
ship.
of the ship.
I mean, that's the only other people who would come out here. But as he continued to stare at the ship, as it got closer, he realized it was not a whale ship. It was actually a schooner, which is a ship designed for traveling. But as Captain Brighton stared at the schooner that was getting closer and closer, he saw it was in pretty rough shape. I mean, the hull and the sails were very tattered. I mean, there was something off about the ship. But Captain Brighton was thinking, hey, I know you can get trapped in the ice out here. It happened to them the night before. Maybe this crew has gotten trapped in the ice. They've been stuck out here for who knows how long. They could be in pretty rough shape. And Captain Brighton knew they actually did have, at least at that moment, quite a bit of supplies, at least some to spare. And so he called out to his men to ready a dinghy and get some supplies, because they were going to go over to this schooner and basically offer up some extra supplies and also check in on them and make sure they were okay. And so once the
That's
supplies
nice.
were packaged up and put on the dinghy, Captain Brighton, along with 4 other men, hopped in the dinghy and they began paddling over to the schooner. And as they got closer, the waves were pretty bad, and so they're kind of jostling around, and the ship itself, the schooner, is also moving, and so that's moving up and down. But periodically, as they got closer, they'd be able to look into the portholes, which are like windows on the side of the schooner, and Captain Brighton could clearly see there were people inside of the schooner. He called out a few times, but it was windy and sort of loud, and he couldn't really tell if any of them heard him or if anybody called back. And so eventually, Captain Brighton and his crew, they got to the side of the schooner, and they just climbed up the ladder and boarded the ship. And once they were on the ship, once they were on the deck of the schooner, they're looking around, and everything was in working order, albeit sort of tattered and in rough shape. But the weird thing is nobody was out on deck. They had seen people in the portholes, which was inside the ship, but there was nobody above deck. And so Captain Brighton's thinking, okay, this is pretty weird here, but we clearly just need to go inside and talk to someone. And so Captain Brighton and his men walked across the deck to this door that led into the ship. It actually led into the captain's quarters, at least, based on basic ship construction, that's what they expected it to be. And so Captain Brighton, he gets to the door, he knocks and calls out, announces that they're here with supplies and just to make sure everybody is okay, but there's no answer. All they can hear is the slapping of the water against the ship. There's no voices, there's nothing. It's silent on the ship. And so Captain Brighton eventually just opens up this door, and sure enough, he looks into this dark space, and it's the captain's quarters. And there's a desk towards the back of this room, and there's a man sitting at the desk with his back to them. And so Captain Brighton, he takes a cautious step into the captain's quarters, and he calls out to this man who clearly appears to be the captain, but the man doesn't say or do anything. He's clearly focused on something at his desk. And so Captain Brighton exchanged a worried glance with his men, and then just decided he would walk across the room and go physically interact with this guy and make sure he was okay and see what was going on here. And so slowly, Captain Brighton began walking across the room, and as he did, he called out a few more times to this man who appeared to be the captain, but he didn't get a response. And then finally, he was right behind the man, and he actually looked down and read what the man had been writing. This is what it said. Trapped by icebergs. Despite all efforts, the fire went out last night. No hope remains. However, as unsettling as that would be to read for anybody in this situation, what was the most unsettling part was actually what was written right above that journal entry. The date, January 17th, 1823. 16 years before. That captain and his entire crew were all dead, and had been for 16 years. They got trapped in the ice just like Captain Brighton had, but it didn't break up. They were stranded, and they all froze to death. And because it was so cold out in that part of the world, all their bodies were basically preserved in their final moments. And so the captain of the ship, before he died, was making an entry to say what happened. And then down below, when Captain Brighton and his men went to go look, they found people playing cards who had literally frozen to death while playing cards. They found a woman lying in her bed with her dog. That's how they froze to death. They found people in the dining hall, and they died right where they were sitting. It was like all these people had been frozen in time for nearly 2 decades, just floating around in Drake's Passage. And basically nobody had found them until Captain Brighton. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. In honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the stigma around they were his boss, another employee of his boss, and then a friend of his boss. It was pitch black outside, and so all 4 men had flashlights. But Rom also had something else.
Okay, actually, I skipped a bit much at the start. Hold on.
Knife. So the reason they were there is Rom's boss was considering buying this 58. A young man.
All right, here we go.
On the night of May 20th, 1958, a young man named Ram Thapa walked towards the entrance of an abandoned airport in eastern India. He was trailing behind 3 other men. They were his boss, another employee of his boss, and then a friend of his.
Speaking of abandoned, I know I keep saying it. I finally have a list of places in Brisbane. I will start recording in them and uploading them to my YouTube channel. As soon as I do, I'll let you guys know, especially those of you who are watching Twitch. I finally have a list. I finally have places. It's hard because a lot of them here have guards. And I found out from somebody that one of them also has a guard dog, and he got chased. So that was terrifying to hear, but he warned me to stay away from that one until a certain time of the day when they go on break. But I don't really want to get fucked up by a guard dog. but those videos are coming.
his boss. It was pitch black
Anyway, let's
outside,
continue.
and so all 4 men had flashlights. But Rom also had something else. He had a huge knife. So the reason they were there is Rom's boss was considering buying this airport. However, there were these rumors floating around that this airport was now haunted ever since being abandoned. In fact, people said, the old hangars and rusted out buildings were infested with ghosts. Now, Rom totally believed that this place really was haunted, but Rom's boss wanted to go and check it out, before he actually considered really buying this place. And so he had recruited these 3 other guys, Rom included, to go basically on a ghost hunt. And so going into this, Rom's boss and the 2 other men, they're sort of like, okay, this is intriguing. It's kind of funny that we're going on this ghost hunt. But Rom, he was terrified. He did not like the idea of going into this airport, especially at night. I mean, he fully believed there were ghosts out here. I mean, he had brought the knife along to protect himself from ghosts. But his
What's
boss
a
was
knife
basically
gonna do,
telling
bro?
him that he had to go, and so Rom was there. And so
Is it
Rom's
covered in
boss reached
salt?
the
I don't
gate,
get it.
he
What's
unlocked
the
it,
knife gonna do to a
pushed it
ghost?
open. And as it slowly swung open, it made this horrible creaking sound, and for the first time, all 4 men are getting an unobstructed view into the actual property. And it's totally, again, pitch black, and they're shining their lights inside, and all they see are just these old hangars and different big buildings and broken down planes, but there's no movement. It's totally dark and it's quiet. And so Rom's boss and the other 2 men, they're walking along, and Rom's in the back, and he's so uneasy, he feels practically sick to his stomach. I mean, everywhere he looked, he would think that he saw a shadow, a ghost staring back at him, but he would shine the light and, nothing would be there. And so this whole time they're walking, he's totally on edge. And eventually they reached the actual runway. And when they got there, instead of shining their lights kind of straight out in front of them, because there was basically nothing out ahead of them, it was just, where planes go to take off and to land, they began shining their lights predominantly off to the side, where there was this huge hangar, and they were all shining their lights in the different windows to see if, anybody was inside of there. And so they're all kind of focused off to the side, and Rom, the whole time, he's totally terrified here. And as, his boss and his friends are kind of shining their lights over here, Rom takes his flashlight and he aims it straight out in front of them. And he sees maybe a couple 100 meters away, just off to the side of the runway, is what appears to be this floating orb. And immediately he keeps his light trained on this orb, and he signals to his boss and the others like, hey, look at this. And they all turn, and they're kind of like, joking around, and they shine their light, and they also see it. They see this floating orb. It made no sense. They noticed that there was not just this orb of light, but there was something below the orb of light, like on the ground. Something was moving, this grayish figure, or multiple figures were kind of like moving around right beneath this orb. But before any of them could say or do anything or react really in any way to whatever it was they were looking at, the dark figures right below the orb, as they're being illuminated by all their flashlights, it was like all of a sudden, whatever they were, they turned, and all these eyes glinted and looked directly back at Rom and his colleagues. And it was
Yo,
like
my
something
dumbass would just
inside of
fucking
Rom
wave
just
like,
clicked.
hello.
He was so scared. He'd been terrified from the moment they got here, and the whole time he had been so primed to protect himself if he had to with this knife. And it was like when he saw these eyes, he didn't have any idea what they were, but he knew they were evil, and if he didn't act, they were doomed. And so, without saying anything to his boss or the other 2 men, with knife in hand, Rom took off running towards the figures. Flowers. That orb of light that the men had seen was just their lantern. Rom had been so convinced they were ghosts that he had taken off and attacked them with his knife, believing he was not only protecting himself, but protecting his boss and the other 2 men. However, he had been wrong. These were just women, and he killed one of them and severely wounded the other 2. And so ultimately, he was charged with murder and assault. However, when he went on trial, he was actually acquitted of all charges because the jury genuinely believed that Rom actually thought he was attacking ghosts, not people.
But he still killed one of them. What the fuck? He still murdered someone though. Fucked in the head or not, you killed someone. You took a life. What the fuck? Whatever
On
country
April 9th,
this is,
2005,
what the fuck?
in Kaohsiung City, Taiwan, a young man was home alone inside of his apartment watching TV. And as he sat there watching TV, he heard a loud thumping sound coming from right above him. As soon as he heard it, he muted his TV and he listened for a second, And a minute later, he heard it again, a loud thump. And then he heard another one, and another one, and another one. And before long, all he heard was a succession of thumps and also what sounded like chanting coming from upstairs. However, as unusual
man's
as
getting
these types of
sacrificed.
sounds might be to the average person, to this young man, these actually weren't that weird. Because the family that lived right above him, the Wu family, were pretty eccentric. They were very religious people who often did these ceremonial dances and rituals at all hours, and a lot of times they involved stomping around and chanting really loudly. And as annoying as that could be, this young man never complained. He was very respectful of the Wu family, and he knew, these sounds he was hearing were connected to their religion, and he felt like that was none of his business. And so, like he did basically every other time he would hear these noises, he simply turned the volume up on his TV and tried to forget about them. But after a few minutes, it was like the noises coming from upstairs just kept getting louder and louder and louder until it was basically impossible to ignore. And then suddenly he heard a scream coming from upstairs that certainly did not feel attached to a ceremony. It sounded like somebody was in danger or in trouble or something. And so at that point, the young man turned the TV off and he stood up and he thought, I need to go up there and make sure things are okay. I mean, forget being annoyed. It sounds like, someone's in trouble or someone's
Maybe
hurt or
call the
something.
police first.
But
Just saying.
as he began making his way towards his door to go upstairs and check on the Wu family, all the noises just completely stopped and it was silent upstairs. And at that point, the young man just stopped where he was. And for a minute, he just listened, waiting to see if maybe the noises would pick back up again. But they didn't. And so the young man just turned around, walked back to his seat, and turned the TV back on. 2 days later, on April 11th,
Completely
that
chilled
same
that
young
out.
man was back home all alone, watching TV yet again, when, once again, he heard a loud pounding sound. Except this time, it was not coming from upstairs, it was coming from his front door. Somebody was hammering on his front door trying to get his attention. And so the young man turned off the TV, he got up, and he went over to his door, he opened it up, and standing there on the landing was this middle-aged man named Wu Shan, who was the patriarch of the Wu family upstairs. And Wu Shan looked absolutely horrible. He was dressed all in black head to toe, but he was pale and skinny and very gaunt, and he was covered in what looked like filth, like food and ash, and he smelled unbelievably horrible. And the young man, he asked Wu Shan, hey, is everything okay? And remember, the young man's thinking about that crazy, loud ceremony they had just 2 days earlier, wondering, whatever happened with that? That was so loud. But Wu Shan just looked back at the young man with this kind of vacant expression, and he just said, call an ambulance. And then, without saying anything else, Wu Shan turned, ran down the steps, and disappeared out into the street. And so at this point, the young man is left just standing there having no idea what to think. I mean, Wu Shan did not look well and he's now run away. And again, this young man is thinking about that bizarre ritual he overheard a couple of days ago that just kind of stopped abruptly after screams were heard. Now he's being told to call an ambulance. And so he's thinking, I better go upstairs and make sure things are okay before I do anything else. And so the young man left his apartment, went upstairs to the Wu family's apartment, and the door was shut. But even standing outside the door, he began to smell that same absolutely horrible smell that he smelled on Wu Shan. And so he knocks on the Wu family's door, he's kind of covering his nose, but he
Has he
doesn't get a
called an ambulance
response,
yet,
nobody
though?
comes to the door.
Did he actually call him?
And so after looking around, he just tried the doorknob, and he found it was unlocked. So, pretty apprehensively, but knowing he needed to see what was going on here, he opened up the door, and right away he's hit with another wave of just this disgusting smell. He can barely breathe, but nonetheless, he steps into the house and he calls out to anybody, anyone come over here and tell me what's going on. But nobody called back, and he kind of looked around the family's apartment, and it was totally filthy. There was just this grime all over everything, and he made his way all the way into the living room, and there he stopped, because in the middle of the living room on the floor, he saw something that he just simply couldn't believe. It would turn out the Wu family had performed a
footage get
ritual
fucked.
2 days earlier. That was the sounds that the neighbor downstairs had been hearing. Those loud stomping and screaming, all that stuff was a ceremony like the family was known to do. However, that ceremony got totally out of hand. So in the weeks leading up to that ceremony, one of the Wu family's daughters came down with an illness. And because the family didn't have a lot of money, they couldn't send her to the doctor. And after a couple of days, when she didn't get better, the family decided that, okay, well, she must not be physically sick. She must be spiritually sick, meaning she was possessed by a demon. And so at first they tried some ceremonies to ward off this demon, but it wasn't really working. And then before long, the rest of the members of the family began complaining that maybe they too were also possessed by the same demon. And before long, that was the belief that the entire Wu family shared, that they all were possessed by demons. And so on the day the downstairs neighbor heard all that stomping and chanting and screaming, that was the day that the Wu family performed a big group exorcism to try to get rid of these demons once and for all from all of them. But the way they did this exorcism was truly horrifying. They believed that the one thing demons were afraid of was filth. And so they decided that if they filled their bodies with enough filth, the demons would leave. And so the Wu family, as they chanted and stomped around and screamed, began consuming their own feces. And when they would vomit it back up again, they would just swallow it right back down for hours and hours and hours. What the downstairs neighbor actually discovered inside the living room of the Wu family's apartment was the daughter, the one who originally had gotten sick, and she was laying on the ground and was deceased. And during the autopsy, they would discover that her airway was totally blocked by feces and vomit. By the time the downstairs neighbor made this discovery, the entire Wu family had fled the apartment. Wu Shan had disappeared after saying calling an ambulance, and the rest of the family too had kind of run off. But the police would ultimately track down all the remaining Wu family members, and they would all be arrested. However, a court ultimately decided that the Wu family was suffering from something known as mass hysteria, and as a result of that, they could not be held legally accountable for what they did. And so, they were all acquitted. In case you haven't heard yet, our newest...
What the fuck goes through their brain to eat their own shit? That's not even like crime or horror, that's just fucking disgusting. Like, I just want to know what the fuck went through their brain. Like, oh, fuck, can't. That's so messed up. Oh, sorry. That's so messed up. Actually, this one's got real footage, that might be better. See, I wanted to use Randonautica, whatever it is, that random app. But then I was like, nah. The idea of going somewhere where, like, someone suggests that's in the middle of fucking nowhere creeped me out. Because I used it for the first couple of times. And I literally, like, I think the first time was fine. It was a really cool little hidden away spot. The second time was in, like, the middle of a fucking farm. And immediately I was like, this is not fucking safe. Like, it was sketchy as fuck. There was nothing around the area. I literally ran back to my car and floored it out of there because I was like, I'm gonna die. And no one's gonna know I'm fucking here. In the beginning, that app was cool. It was like, so everyone could just put in random locations that were cool or abandoned or haunted or whatever. But after using it a few times, I went, this is the worst fucking app because it's creepy as shit. And you're pretty much just asking for a fucking murderer just to come out of nowhere and be like, hi. They're not going to say it though in a girly voice, but you get what I fucking mean. I don't know if we get rid of that one. We'll do this one. We'll try creepy real stories with photos and videos.
Mark was a college student living in Indiana. His house was quiet and sat next
oh shit,
to
my
some
bad.
woods.
By the way, Mr. Nightmare. This is the videos if you guys want to check him out and all that kind of shit. Oh, thank you for the sub again. 13 months in a row. Fucking hell.
During the day,
Twitch,
everything
just say
felt
1
normal,
year, 1
but
month.
at night, The woods made the
Fucking
place feel
13 months
strange.
shit, they're not babies.
Behind his
people
house,
get my
under the
babies
patio,
48
there was a
months.
hot tub. That's
Just
where everything
saying years,
happened.
cunt. You need to tell me
It was
once.
Saturday night,
Anyway.
March 29th, around
At least.
12:30 a.m. Spring break was ending and school was starting again soon. Mark had his 3 close friends over, Kyle, Keenan, and Derek. They were spending one last night hanging out. They were in the garage playing pool, blasting music, and drinking. Everyone was laughing and having fun. It felt like a good night. After a while, Kyle said they should go in the hot
58
tub.
weeks in a row. Fuck right
It was
off.
cold outside, so the warm water sounded even better. Everyone agreed. They got changed into swim trunks, grabbed their drinks, and went into the hot tub. The warm water
That's
felt
a
good as they
big
talked,
fucking
made
hot
jokes,
tub. Holy
and didn't pay
shit.
attention to the time. Then they heard something. It was the sound of sticks breaking, like footsteps coming from the woods.
Fuck that.
It didn't sound like an animal, it sounded like a person. They all went quiet and looked around. Keenan tried to calm everyone down and said it was probably nothing. The others laughed, but it was more to stop feeling nervous.
Anybody
They
could
turned the
hide in
music
that.
up
It's
louder
fucking
and tried to
thick.
keep talking. About 10 minutes later,
There's another house,
a
or
man
was that
walked
their
out of the
house?
woods. He stepped into the light from the patio. He was wearing a long black coat, white sweatpants, and a gaming headset. His
Oh,
eyes
so that's
were
their
wide,
house. That must
and
be
his
their
face
neighbors.
didn't show any feeling. Everyone jumped. They yelled at him and asked who
Just
he
baptize
was
him
and
in
what he
the
was
hot tub.
doing. The man raised his hands and said his name was Seth. He said he was 33 years old and he heard them laughing and wanted to join. The guys just looked at each other, confused. Mark
What
told
the
him to
fuck?
leave, but he didn't listen.
Hey
Instead,
guys, I want
Seth
to join
took
in
off
the
his
laughs.
coat, then his shoes, and then his pants. He was now in only
No
his
fucking
underwear.
way.
Then he got into the hot tub.
No,
No one knew what
fucking
to say.
way.
Mark pulled out his phone and started recording, not for fun, but because the whole thing felt unreal. This was the footage he captured.
Wait, I saw the dream right there. What was over here?
Okay, so either he's really fucking drunk,
They started
high
asking
as
Seth
shit,
questions, like where
or
he came
unfortunately
from and if
has
he knew anyone
maybe
there.
a
He
mental
just kept saying he heard them laughing and wanted to hang
fucking
out.
issue or some
Then he
shit.
said something really disturbing. He said he had molested a child.
What?
That changed everything, obviously.
Did I
Guys
mishear
jumped
him
out of the
before?
hot tub and started yelling at him to leave. They pulled him out of the water. Seth didn't try to stop them. He just stood there, dripping wet and staring. Then he slowly walked
You know
back
what?
into
Good
the
on
woods
them though
without
for
saying
pulling him the
anything.
fuck out.
The
They
group
shouldn't have
ran
let him
inside
get
and
in.
locked all the doors.
But the fact that after he
Some of
said
them
that, they
laughed
pulled him the
nervously,
fuck
trying
out.
to
Good
shake
for
it
them.
off.
That
But
was.
Mark and Kyle didn't feel okay. They felt like it wasn't over. About 15
You
minutes
just randomly goes,
passed.
hey, I'm 33.
Kyle
I
said
heard
they
you.
should
I
go
want to
back
join
out
you.
to
How
lock
fucking
the hot
weird.
tub. Mark said okay. So they got flashlights and stepped outside. That's when Mark saw something next to the hot tub. It was a phone. He picked it up and saw the screen light up. Whatever was on the lock screen made him drop the phone. He didn't say what it was, but it scared him. He said he thought Seth would come back, so they ran inside and told the others. Everyone tried to stay calm.
Have they
Then
called the
heard a
cops? Did I
tapping
miss
sound
that
on the
part?
window.
Like, what the fuck?
Mark already knew who it was. He opened the curtain, and wouldn't you know it, Seth was standing right there. His face was pale, his eyes were wide open, and he had a creepy smile. He didn't say anything, he didn't move, he
I'd
just
go
stared.
find the fucking garden hose and
Mark
hose the
yelled for
cunt down.
Kyle. Kyle ran in and called the police. Mark
There we
grabbed
go,
a
now it's
bat
calling
and
the
went to the
cops.
front door. He yelled for Seth to leave and take his phone. Seth didn't answer. Instead, he slowly walked around the side of the house. Mark followed a little bit and looked through the patio
Does anyone
window.
else watching this also have
Seth
a
was
plan if you
standing
had
there
this situation
again,
happen to
staring
you? Because I
inside.
do. I know
Mark
I
told
have a
him the cops
dog,
were coming and
but I
that he
also have a
needed to
plan
leave.
that if I'm
But
alone,
Seth
of what to
didn't
do
move.
to fuck
He just
someone up if they
slowly
come to
raised
my
his
house.
hand and waved once. Then he turned and walked back into the woods. The police arrived a few minutes later. The guys told them everything. The officers searched the woods and found Seth standing alone, just looking toward the house. They arrested him for trespassing, and everyone thought it was over. But Mark didn't feel that way. A few days later, he saw a
Did they
post on
not
Snapchat from a
tell
girl who
him?
lived nearby. It was a video. It showed another man, not Seth, trying to break into her house late at night. That's what bothered Mark the most. It meant Seth might not be the only one out there. There could be more. They
Did
could be
martial arts.
connected, and they might not be done.
Did you actually, or are you just saying that?
A few years ago,
The tunnel.
3 high school friends named Beck, Matthew, and
wanna
Tyler
go to the
decided
haunted
to
tunnel near
explore a
me at
sewer
night.
tunnel in their neighborhood.
I just don't want to go alone.
It was
It's fucking
winter and
creepy as
very
shit.
cold outside. The tunnel was at the edge of their neighborhood, under a small creek next to some office buildings. These buildings were empty and dark at night. The boys had seen the tunnel before, but never went inside of it. It always looked creepy, and they joked about it, but deep down they were curious. That night, they finally decided to go in. They brought sleds with them, thinking it would help if someone asked what they were doing. They knew they weren't allowed to be there, but they wanted to do something exciting. Just as they pulled into the parking lot, a police car showed up. A police officer got out
Do
and
you
asked what they
actually,
were
Ed?
doing
What
there.
the fuck?
Someone had apparently seen them on the security camera. Tyler quickly said that they were just going
That's something
sledding.
that I would like yell out to
The
someone
officer
at my
looked
house.
them
I'll
for
pause this for a
moment, then
second.
told them to leave.
I would like totally lie. I'd be there with a fucking baseball bat, like, I fucking know karate, cunt, black belt, bitch. Like, do you actually have it? That's fucking sick. I know someone who I think's he said he's 2 under black belt because he's currently learning karate. But I don't know how good that means you are if you're 2 under black belt. I don't fucking know the colors and shit.
Leave. So
Hey,
they left.
What's that
but
fucking
only for a
penguin
little
game?
while.
I'm black belt
After
in that
driving
one.
around for
Whatever
about
that
30
fucking
minutes, they came
Club
back.
Penguin game is.
This time, they parked farther away, behind a
You
building
never told me
where
that.
no one could
You've
see
never
them.
told me.
They walked down a hill behind the buildings. They could see their breath in the cold, crisp air. They stood in front of the tunnel, noting how big, round, and completely dark inside it was. They turned on their flashlights and walked.
I try not to fucking judge. But of course a tunnel is fucking round, black, and dark inside. What the fuck? It is nighttime. It's a tunnel. What is it, a fucking triangle? Oh, you notice that the tunnel is dark at night. What the fuck, cunt? Of course.
in.
Bro.
Turn off your light, everybody.
Oh, this looks sick. Okay, the tunnel I want to show you guys that I will soon is not this big. It's an old train tunnel, so it's only like fucking 500 meters long. Not even that, actually. I think it's only about... Actually, no, I think it's only 100 to 200 meters long. But this is way cooler.
Dude, how did we even find this?
Yeah, there are like... Oh yeah, junior belts.
Inside the tunnel, the ground was dry.
time we first talked
It was
about it, I just
quiet,
got them.
except
Oh,
for the
okay.
sound of water dripping deeper in. The walls had graffiti all over them. Most of it looked old, but one thing caught their eye. A date was spray painted in large red numbers. 6/19/19. The paint looked newer than the rest, like it was done recently. That made them feel uneasy. Their flashlights weren't very strong and didn't shine very far. Still, they kept walking and acting tough, but deep down they were nervous.
Walking and acting
The
tough.
farther they went, the colder it got. The temperature was dropping fast. Even though they were underground, they could still see their breath. The walls looked like they had ice on them. Big icicles hung
torches
down from
aren't
the
very
ceiling.
bright.
Some were huge and sharp.
Like, I literally have 2 massive spotlights for when I go exploring. One, because I want to fucking see. And 2, I want to see someone before they fucking see me. Obviously, I know the brighter the torch, the more chance they're actually going to see me. But if I'm in something like this, my torch would be able to see fucking a lot better than this. I love that. He goes, hello? So they're just going to be like, hey man, come on through. I got tea and coffee. Have a fucking seat. You want a biscuit? Like, the fuck?
Dude, and these icicles can like impale you, dude. Look how like.
Oh, someone is there, hey. Yo.
Suddenly, a loud cracking sound echoing from further down the tunnel sends the group fleeing in fear. The sound resembled
There definitely
something
would be
heavy hitting
squatters though
stone.
in that.
It wasn't any
Like
of them.
flat ground,
The
dark.
sound came from deeper inside the tunnel, too far to see. They tripped, slid, and bumped into each other as they rushed to get out. When they got outside, they were shaking and breathing hard. That's when Beck noticed his phone was missing. He had dropped it while they were
I'm
running.
not going into that tunnel
Tyler
with
and
a fully
Matthew
loaded
told him to
machine
forget
gun.
about it. They didn't want to go back in, but Beck didn't listen. He grabbed his flashlight and started walking toward the tunnel again. The others followed, but they didn't want to. The tunnel felt different this time. It felt even darker.
If I drop my
The
phone,
air
I go
felt
back and
heavy
get
and
it, but only because my
strange, like
phone's
something
fucking
was wrong.
expensive and I'm not paying
The
for another
flashlights
one.
didn't work
That's
as
just
well,
too much
and
money.
the silence was even worse than before. It felt like something was watching them.
Do we get to see it again? We do. Okay. What the fuck?
I feel like when Pocket got like a little emptier over here. Like somewhere over here. Now if you go over here this way.
Oh fuck! What are we gonna say? I hope it's something
Dude, that's when
good.
we fucking heard the noise.
Shit, dude. Do I have to go back there?
They didn't go that far though, did they? I don't think they
Yeah, we're
did.
not leading the way. Yeah, somebody else lead the way, please.
No, it's your phone.
I'm gonna fucking get another drink. Mine's empty.
At some point off camera, Beck found his phone. Afterwards, the group continued deeper into the tunnel investigating. And that's when they heard a sound.
It must have been
Hold your phone.
What was it? Do you remember?
I reckon it's a
A
squatter.
loud scream came from deeper
If you
in the
hear
tunnel.
someone coming, you're gonna
It
bang the
echoed off
walls to scare
walls
them
and
off.
felt like it was getting closer.
And yeah, if I was a squatter, I'd
They
just
didn't
fucking
wait.
scream.
They
Because
turned
no
and
shit, they're
ran as
gonna run.
fast as they could. This time,
love it though,
no
it was
one
like a,
talked, no
"Ah!"
one looked back. They just
It wasn't
ran.
like a scared scream.
They got to the car,
It was just like
jumped
a
in, and drove
like
away
get the
without
fuck out
stopping.
scream. You know, does that make
The
sense to
car
anyone?
ride back was mostly silent. The three friends thought it was over when they all got home. They were ready to move on with their lives. But late that night, Beck's doorbell rang.
Yeah, I know. They
twice.
kept going.
This was at some off hour in the night.
Fucking hell.
When Beck's dad went to answer the door, nobody was there. This, of course, begs the question, were the boys followed home that night? Or was it simply a very unfortunately timed ding-dong ditch? That remains a mystery. The night left more questions than answers for the three friends, but they all heard the noises and of course got it on video. Perhaps it was something they weren't meant to stumble upon.
Woods encounter. Okay.
In April of 2022, a man named Connor took a construction job far from home as part of a 3-month accommodation
What the
program.
fuck?
The pay was
That thing's
decent, and he
sick.
needed every dollar. He wasn't in the best place financially, and the bonus
That's
of working
shredding
alongside
the
his
fucking
longtime
tree.
friend Jim made the opportunity more
What
appealing.
the fuck?
They figured it would be a nice
I
change
know that's
of
what they
pace.
did. I
Extra
honestly did
cash,
not know they
time
had
away
that
from
shit.
home,
Like obviously they
and some
would,
peace
but
from
I
the
didn't. I've
chaos
never
of
seen it
everyday
before. That
life.
was
The
fucking
job
cool.
itself wasn't bad. A few weeks in, Ryan had adjusted well to the routine, but the
Yeah,
area
'cause
they were
squatter was
stationed in
presumably
was
no car's
remote,
gonna follow you
deep in
25
rural
miles.
countryside. There were long,
I'm not
winding
repeating
roads
that
with
next one,
barely
though.
any signs of life.
I'm
It
not
wasn't
saying that on
unusual to go
stream.
miles without seeing a single home. Ryan had always loved the outdoors, and he saw this
Oh, for
isolation as a
fuck's
chance
sake,
to
can't this
unplug.
comment.
Most of his coworkers blew their weekends drinking, but Ryan had different plans. He wanted solitude. He wanted quiet. So when Friday rolled around, he packed his gear and prepared for a weekend of hiking and camping deep within the woods. A narrow trailhead just 5 minutes from his temporary accommodation became his entry point.
Ed, did you get rid of
Within
that
20
comment or do you want me
minutes,
to?
he was deep in the forest. The only sound was the wind and the crunch of his boots. He smoked a couple joints as he made
Crunch
his way
of his
further in,
boots.
letting the stress just melt away. The isolation was comforting for him. Well, at first.
I'm gonna leave this going while I
Around
quickly
7
refill my
p.m.,
drink
the
because
sun
I'm
began
thirsty
to
as
sink
fuck.
behind the treetops. Shadows
be right
stretched
back.
long across the trail. Ryan knew it was time to find a place to settle. That's when he noticed something unusual. There was a scent in the air, burning firewood, and a light layer of smoke drifted between the trees. At first, it seemed normal, maybe another camper, maybe a local. But then, he caught something just barely in the corner of his vision. The faint orange glow of fire flickering through the trees. Curious and confident, Ryan left the trail and headed towards the source. He wasn't scared. He trained in combat sports during his teens and stayed in good shape. Still, something about this felt off to him. As he moved closer, he began to see strange metallic glints. Shopping carts, dozens of them. They were tied to trees with rope hanging for the branches. Some mangled and suspended in bizarre positions, like a twisted jungle gym of rusted steel. It didn't look like a campsite. It looked like a ritual site, like something meant to be seen and feared. Ryan pulled out his phone and started snapping photos. He had to prove this to his friends someday because no one would believe it otherwise. Then, something even stranger caught his eye. Hung directly above the fire was a charred, old-fashioned duck ornament. Sitting in the duck's back was a scorched baby doll. The thing was melted, its limbs warped from heat. Ryan took a photo of that too, but the longer he stared, the more disturbed he felt.
I don't know what the fuck I
His
missed. Left
chest
my
began
headset
to
here.
tighten. The fire was roaring,
the fuck is
clearly
that?
tended to recently. There were water bottles scattered around. Someone had been there, or currently was there, maybe still watching. He thought about turning around, thought about heading straight back to the trailhead, but something made him
Why
keep
is there a
walking.
fucking shopping
He
cart?
tried to convince himself it was nothing, just some weird loner, maybe drunk, probably harmless. Still, he checked over his shoulder more than once. 20 minutes passed, and he'd put real distance between himself and that eerie camp. But daylight was fading fast, and he needed firewood before it got too dark. He veered off the trail again, this time to gather supplies. He wasn't worried. He had emergency wood in his pack, but not enough to last the entire night. He needed more. After about an hour of preparation, Ryan had set up his tent and built a small fire. It was around 9 p.m. when he prepped a steak and potato meal in foil and nestled it in the glowing embers. He smoked another joint to dull the anxiety, and for a while, everything seemed okay
Smoked
again.
another joint,
With
fuck
his
it.
meal finished and the fire crackling, Ryan settled in for the night. He turned on a pre-downloaded playlist of true crime podcasts, listening to cold case files as the forest around him darkened. There was no signal out there, no distractions, just firelight and static-filled voices recounting unsolved murders. At some point, he drifted off to sleep, but it didn't last. He woke up suddenly. The air inside his tent felt colder.
I fucking miss
The fire
camping. I wanna
outside
go
had
again.
dimmed. He checked his phone.
I need to find a new
4 a.m.
fucking...
He didn't know what had woken him up until
it
he
called?
heard it. Whistling. A slow, eerie tune carried through the trees surrounding his camp. He froze. His body wouldn't move. It was like something inside him had shut down. He lay motionless, listening
Sounds like a
as the
bird or
sound
someone's
crept
really
closer.
shit whistling.
Then the whistling stopped.
Refrax. I did not finish my
What
sentence
followed
earlier.
was
I want to go
worse.
camping again, but I need to get new
Soft
refrax.
footsteps, fast, light, and quiet, circling his tent. He couldn't see them,
Refrax for my
but
new
he could
car
hear
is
them
so much more
crunching
fucking
twigs and
expensive than my
shifting
old car. It
leaves.
pisses me off.
His
But
heart pounded in his throat. Then, without thinking, his body finally snapped into motion. He jumped up, threw on his boots, and burst out of the tent. What made it worse, what twisted the fear into something primal, was that the footsteps had come from the direction he had entered the trail. The way back to safety was now blocked. He had no choice but to run deeper into
I
the
got a new
forest.
car ages ago,
He
but
sprinted
to
as
me it's
fast as
still
he
new.
could, crashing through brush and low branches. But behind
I used
him,
to-
he
I used
could
to
hear
have a
more
Subaru
footsteps, multiple,
Forester.
and they weren't in sync.
And then I
The
traded it
sounds
in.
overlapped, too fast and scattered to just be one
Haval.
person. There were two of them, maybe more. For 5 straight minutes, he ran until his
Haval
lungs burned and his
H6,
legs begged for
to be
rest.
specific.
He found a dense cluster of trees and dove into the underbrush, burying himself in leaves and tangled roots. He didn't move. He barely breathed.
No, my old car, its motor
The
was
footsteps
literally
faded, distant
gonna blow
now,
up.
but he didn't dare
like my
come
dad
out.
was like, just get rid of
He
it.
waited, still
When we
and
left
silent
Cairns,
in
he
the
was
dark.
like, seriously,
Eventually,
if you drive
he
this
knew
for
he had
more
to
than
move.
3 months, you
He
might
crawled
die.
through the
I was
forest
like,
with
oh,
branches cutting into his arms and
fuck.
legs.
So
Every step was slow
I
and
literally only got
careful.
scrap money for
When
it.
the trees finally
I
began
traded
to
it
thin,
in, but they
he broke
knew
into one
the
final
motor was
sprint.
fucked, so I only got scrap money.
He
But
recognized the trailhead, the way out, and he ran without stopping. No one followed him after that. The forest was quiet, but the damage was
although to
done.
be fair, they gave me a
He
good
got
deal
back to
actually.
his accommodation and immediately reported the
Like
incident
the
to
scrap money they
police.
gave me for
They
it
took
was
his
because it
statement
had
and
brand
promised
new
to
tires,
investigate, but
aircon
he never heard
system,
anything
and
back.
brand
To this
new
day, Ryan believes the people who chased him were the
motors
same
in the
ones who
front
built
two
that bizarre
windows.
shrine of carts and dolls.
Because I was like, look, I get it, the
What they were
motor's gonna
doing out there
go,
and what they
but
wanted, he doesn't know.
brand new
But it was more than just a
tires,
creepy encounter.
literally
To him, it felt
like
ritualistic,
2 weeks before we left
cult-like.
Cairns, I had
He
put
finished
in
his
new window
contract and
motors.
returned home.
I was
But the
like, I've
memory
spent
never left
thousands
him.
on this car
He
just to
still
get it
remembers the
here.
sound of the footsteps, the
They
whistling,
cut me a
and the
pretty
feeling
good
of
deal for still giving me
helplessness.
money for the car, so I was
If
pretty
there's anything
grateful,
to learn
even
from
though they
this
couldn't do
story,
much
it
with
would
the
be to
actual
trust
car's
your
motor.
instincts. If you
They
find
could still
something that
take
doesn't
out
feel right, you should
the
leave. Ryan almost didn't.
probably pieces from the
And he knows
aircon,
he
and
might
then
not
they
have
could
lived to
take
tell
out the
story
2
if he
brand
had
new
stayed.
window motors as well. So
This video was me experimenting with a slightly different style. If any
But
of
the
you have
Haval is so
personal
much
scary
better.
experiences that include
And
photos
Haval
or
is now
videos and
nowadays.
you'd like to submit them,
Like,
email
2016
them to me, and I'll
Haval
try to make
wasn't
this
as good
style
as
of
it
video a
was,
new
but
series. Also,
nowadays
if you
they
haven't
seem to be
already,
doing really
click the
well.
bell icon and turn on all
So I'm pretty happy
notifications
with
because
mine.
apparently only
Well, they always do that. Only a small percentage of you are subscribed. Like, get over it. I don't even ask people to fucking subscribe. Like, you do what you want, bro. It's your life. This one should be interesting. When the police don't help, this might actually be really fucking sad, so we're gonna see.
This happened in the fall of
crime and
2021,
horror now,
when I was
not just
living
one or the
alone
other.
in a rented townhouse in southern Illinois. It was my first time ever living by myself. And
Although
even
my
though I
next
was
car is going to
technically
be
an
the
adult,
Havalis version of a
27,
four-wheel
with a
drive.
full-time job
Because
and
right
a
now I've only got the
stable
SUV,
routine, I still had a
which
lot
is
of
fine,
nerves
that's all I
about the
need.
idea.
But their
I'd just gone
cars
through a
actually
rough
keep their
breakup,
value, so I'm
and I thought the
hoping
silence and
in the next
solitude
8
might
years
help
when I
me
want another
process
car, I can
everything.
get
The
their
townhouse
four-wheel
was
drive
part of a
version because
small
they're
row
actually
of identical
performing
units, kind
really
of
well,
plain, but clean
according
and
to all the
quiet,
reviews and all
tucked
that.
away in a sleepy cul-de-sac
Anyway,
just
enough
off
of
the
that.
rural
That's a
highway.
story for another
The
day.
neighborhood had that sterile suburban vibe. Lots of beige vinyl siding,
The
trimmed
fuck?
hedges,
Sterile
wind chimes, and
suburban
mailboxes
type.
with
What the
family names
fuck?
stenciled on them. Mostly older folk, but a few
I
young
get what he
families.
means by that, but that's
I
hilarious
didn't
that he
know any of my
fucking
neighbors well,
said it
but I
that way.
liked it that way. I kept to myself, but
Whenever
almost
him.
right away.
Whenever I drive through the rich neighborhood in Brisbane, I'm gonna be like, sterile suburbia. That's where I am. That's fucking great that he said that. I'm never gonna forget that now when I fucking drive through the fucking rich fucking white houses, like.
I noticed one person who stood out from the rest. He lived 3 doors down. A tall, heavy-set man, probably in his mid-40s, with a scruffy beard and
Yeah,
a weird
hey.
habit of standing outside his
About the
house at
fucking
night,
For You
sometimes
page.
just pacing or smoking, sometimes doing nothing at all,
Just steal one.
staring.
Hey, every
I'd
other
pull into
fucking
my
person in
driveway
Australia
after
does
work
at the
around
moment. I'll
9
just
or
fucking
10
join
p.m.,
him.
and there he'd be, leaning against his porch rail or just standing at the edge of his driveway facing the street. He never waved, never smiled.
It's such a
He
dad
just
photo
stared.
in front of the
Even
car.
if I looked
Like,
directly
yeah,
at him,
this
I
is
tried
my
to
rig.
ignore it. A couple of times I mentioned it to friends or my mom, and they said maybe he was just a night owl or had insomnia.
Sterile
There was
Suburbia
something
sounds like a
unsettling
new
about him.
New Age punk
like he was
rock
always
band.
watching but never participating. It wasn't just that he
shit.
was there, it was the stillness. He didn't fidget or check his phone or shift his weight. He just stood there like a statue. I told myself not to be paranoid, but the more time passed, the more that gnawing feeling in my gut grew. Then the noises started. It was around
I'm
mid-September
more a
when I
fan
first
of the
heard
car
it.
parked outside.
I had
when
just
this-
gotten home from work after a long shift.
right there, yeah.
I worked late hours managing inventory at a distribution center, and I usually got in around 10:30 p.m.
I hate how
exhausted,
simple
grabbing
these
a bite to
houses
eat
look.
and crashing.
Like, there's
night,
nothing. It's
I fell
literally
asleep
just
around
like a
midnight.
fucking
At
plain
exactly
white house. Like,
10:37
there's no
a.m., I
fucking
woke up to a sound I can only
extra
describe as
architecture,
metal
nothing
scraping
fucking put
against
into
wood.
it. It's just brick and white paint. They're like, yep, there you
At
go.
first, I thought I had dreamed it, but then I heard it again. A long, slow creaking noise, like an old gate opening. My bedroom was on the first floor, at the back of the unit.
Because our gate's
and I had a
fucking
sliding
broken,
glass door with
you will not
vertical
be able to
blinds that
sneak
led
into
to
our
a
house.
small
We've
fenced-in
tried to open our
backyard.
gate quietly.
I
You
sat up
fucking
in
can't,
bed,
because the
heart
fuck is
racing,
broken
and
and it can't be
listened.
fixed.
There was a pause.
It just sounds
then
like
I
a
heard
fucking
footsteps, soft,
like it's the
crunching
worst
sounds, like
fucking
someone
sound when you
walking
open our
slowly
gate.
across gravel. My entire backyard
Which
was
is a good
lined
thing
with
for us,
decorative
'cause someone
rock
tried to
instead of
fucking come in the
grass,
yard, we're gonna
so you
hear
could
'em.
hear every footstep clearly. These weren't animal sounds. I grabbed my phone and
Not
crept
to
out
mention,
of
we've
bed.
got Hazel who's
I didn't have a
fucking
weapon,
hears
just a
flies.
dull
I
kitchen
swear, her
knife I kept
hearing's
in my
fucking
nightstand,
insane.
just in case, which at the time felt kind of ridiculous. I crouched by the edge of the window and peeked through the blinds. I couldn't see anything. The motion light wasn't on, which meant either they were out of range or had come in a different way. I dialed 911.
I want the ones
dispatcher
with
was
the
calm,
fucking
asked
videos.
for my
That
address,
was a good
and told
video. I
me
might try to
officers
find
were
another one of
en route.
those.
I stayed crouched in the dark.
Because I like
barely
having the
breathing.
story, but seeing the
About
actual
10 minutes
videos and
later,
photos helps.
Red and blue lights flickered through my front window. I got up, opened the door, and met the 2 officers outside. I explained everything, what I heard, what time it started. One of them walked around the back while the other stayed with me and asked a few questions. The officer in the yard came back and said the gate was closed and there were no signs of tampering, but said he'd write up a report just in case. They didn't see anyone. No footprints or damage. Basically no crime. One of them actually said, probably just a raccoon, and gave me a look that clearly said, "You're wasting our time." I didn't argue. They left after about 10 minutes. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next morning, I went outside to check the backyard myself. That's when I noticed something
Just throw a
strange.
rave.
There was a flat stone about the size of a paperback book, wedged under the bottom edge of the wooden fence gate. I hadn't noticed it before. The gate had a heavy spring that made it swing
I'm
closed
sorry, but I
automatically.
hate his
but
backyard.
The stone looked like it had been placed there specifically to
fucking
stop
hate
it from
how that
closing all
looks.
the way. It was
No offense
subtle,
to this guy.
like something someone would do if they wanted to come back later and slip in without making noise. I picked up the rock and tossed it across the yard. I called the police again and told them what I'd found. They told me they'd note it in the report, but again said there wasn't much they could do. I asked if they could talk to any of the neighbors or check for cameras. They said no, unless a crime was committed, they couldn't investigate. I felt like
Just
I
get
was
some
losing
cameras,
my
bro.
mind.
I have 3.
2 nights
I
later,
recommend them.
it escalated.
Cameras are good.
At exactly 2:14 a.m., I woke up again, this time to the sound of my back door handle turning. The handle rattled gently at first, like someone testing it.
Oh. can't say that one
then
out
a harder
loud, but-
jiggle, like someone trying to open it. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. I couldn't see anything
You should just
through
go
the
out there with a
blinds,
fucking
but I could
baseball
feel
bat and
someone
just be like,
standing
oh,
on
you
the other
can't
side.
fuck off.
My mouth went dry. I picked up my phone with shaking hands and called the police again. While I waited, I crouched in the hallway out of view. I didn't have
Like,
a
I
gun
know that,
or
like, you're meant to
dog,
call the
just that
cops and
stupid
shit, but if
kitchen
you
knife.
live alone,
My
you
motion
think
light
you would
clicked
have
on,
an
and
understanding
through a
of
tiny gap in the
self-defense.
blinds, I saw a shadow move across the window. It was a man. He didn't run or try to hide. He just stood there. The same 2 officers showed up again. This time, they actually found footprints in the gravel, big ones, heading right up to the door. But again, they said since no entry had been made, there wasn't enough to go on. They promised to patrol the area more often and told me to keep my doors locked. The next day, I installed a camera.
To a house, you know, all the
It was one of
knives, I'll
those
just grab one,
mid-range
eh?
Wi-Fi security cams.
Honestly.
I set one up above the back door.
Trent's got a
and another above
fucking
the front
cigarette lighter in
porch.
like every room.
That night,
And I really want to
didn't go
try
bed.
and make a
I
flamethrower
sat in the
one day
living
with the
room
lighter and
lights
just
off,
fucking
watching
spray
the
someone.
live feed on my phone.
Which sounds really bad, but
2:14
like,
a.m. came and went.
just
Nothing
attempt to
happened.
break into my house, see
Then,
what
at
happens.
2:23, the back
We've got
camera
like 20
triggered.
chef knives, but
A man stepped
I want to
into
be
frame.
dramatic and make a
He walked in
flamethrower.
through the gate like he knew exactly how to move to avoid the motion sensor until the last second.
If Hazel doesn't get to him
He was
first, because
tall and
fuck me, that
broad,
dog.
wearing a black hoodie with the hood up, jeans and gloves. He walked up to the door, looked up directly at the camera, and smiled. A slow, stretched out grin. Then he backed up, still staring, and disappeared into the dark. I
What the
called the police
fuck?
again, and they came back, watched the clip, and admitted that yes, it was unsettling. But since he didn't break in, didn't damage
sounds
property,
paranoid, but
and
I live in
didn't
a
appear to
fucked
be
up area.
armed,
I have
there was
knives in
still
every room.
allegedly nothing they could
I
do.
did that in Cairns because
They
I had
wouldn't even ask
break-ins.
the guy down the street to check his
And it
doorbell
scared me
cam.
because I was worried that if they
I
broke
begged
in,
them.
they may find where I
They
hid
said
the
their
knife.
hands were tied.
But I did
night,
that.
I packed a
I also
bag
had a
and
knife
slept
in
at
my
a
car,
hotel.
which
When
I was
came back
warned
the
about
next
because
day,
apparently
I
cops
found
here in
4
Australia don't
muddy
like that
handprints on
anymore.
the glass door.
And I would just tell
Too
people, well,
high
fuck
up
you, I'm a
and
chef.
Too low, like someone had
My
crouched
knives
down
go where
and
I
just
go,
rested their
so
hands
if they
there
need to
for a
be in the
while,
fucking car for
staring
work,
in.
they're going to be in my fucking
I
car
moved
for
out a
work.
week later. I broke
Cairns
my
was
lease
fucked
and
up.
forfeited my deposit.
I don't ever
want to
get back there.
I couldn't stay there another night. The final straw was the note I found wedged in my mailbox the day I left.
Oh,
It
there's
was
a note, get
handwritten
fucked.
in small cramped letters on lined notebook paper. It said, "The cops leave, but I don't." I filed one last report. The officer I spoke to that time looked genuinely disturbed by the note. He
Cunt.
promised they'd do a wellness check on the neighborhood, but it was too late.
That's
I
fucked.
never went back. About a month later, I got a
been
message
moving.
on Facebook from a girl named Kayla. She said she was the new tenant who had moved into the unit after me. Her message said, "Hi, sorry to bother you. I think you used to live here. Did you ever have someone in a black hoodie hanging around the backyard? I keep hearing footsteps at night, and last night, someone knocked on the glass door around 2 a.m. and just stood there." I didn't reply. I didn't want to know what happened
See,
next.
just get some pepper spray and fuck him up. He's not going to come back. He wouldn't fucking want to. I bring out all my friends, and we'd all hose the fucker down. We'd all just
I work
fucking
for a
hose the
property
cunt.
preservation company.
Then he didn't come back.
Basically, we
He leaves
handle
you alone.
foreclosed homes,
Problem solved.
securing them, cleaning them
Bada
out,
bing, bada boom.
winterizing them, sometimes even boarding them up if
He
there's been
comes back.
vandalism.
You get a lighter. You
It's
make a
not
flamethrower.
glamorous work, but it pays
Then
well.
maybe he
and
doesn't
for
come
the
back.
most part, it's quiet. You spend a lot of time alone in houses that used to belong to people who are long gone. Sometimes it's
Yeah, you can
sad,
carry open
sometimes
knives
it's
as
just
long as
boring.
they are no longer
but every once in a while,
3
you get
inches,
a
which
house
is all
that
you need
feels
to find yourself.
unsettling.
Fucking hell.
This happened in 2020 when
Actually,
I
I'm
was
gonna
assigned to
pause this
clear
real
out a
quick.
property.
in Melbourne, it was fucked up. But in Melbourne, Australia, which is not my state, it's fucking Victoria, so it's down from me in Queensland. But now in Victoria, the whole state in Australia, machetes are now illegal. Because 4 fucking kids, and I mean kids, a 13-year-old, 2 14-year-olds, and a 15-year-old decided to have gang wars in the fucking shopping centre somewhere in Melbourne with machetes, because apparently, no, you can't buy fucking knives without an 18-year-old ID in Australia, but you can go out and buy fucking machetes without any identification. You can't even buy pocket knives here without having to show your ID. I know, because my dad, who is 69, went and bought one the other day. And even though they could see that he was 69, or fucking old enough, the guy behind the counter was like, "I'm sorry, sir, but it's protocol, we have to actually see the physical ID." And my dad was like, "It's a fucking pocket knife, cunt." Yet, a fucking machete that is like fucking 45 to 60 centimeters long is just fine for a 13-year-old boy to go by. Australia, you're fucked up. I know I live here, but we're fucked up in our rules. But anyway, so in the state of Victoria, machetes, I'm pretty sure, are now illegal because of this. Because they went around the fucking shopping centre having their little fucking war. So yeah,
In a rural part of upstate New
Australia,
York.
they say it's the place
It
to
was
be.
one of those dying places.
Come on
Only
over.
one gas station, half the businesses shuttered, roads cracked and overgrown. The
That's
house
fucked. That's
itself
really
was
fucked
a
up. It is,
small,
I know.
one-story place off a dirt road, surrounded by overgrown brush and woods on 3 sides. No other homes nearby, just trees and silence. According to the file, the house had been foreclosed after the owner, an elderly woman, passed away, and no heirs had stepped forward to claim the estate. The utilities had been shut off for over a year. Our job was to catalog any remaining property, empty it out, and secure it for winter. I drove up on a Monday morning around 9 a.m. with a small box truck and all my gear. From the outside, the house looked intact. Windows closed, door locked, roof fine, just a lot of weeds and vines climbing up the porch. I had to shove the front door open because it had swollen in the frame, but once inside, everything looked pretty standard. It was dusty, stale air and faded furniture.
I see
Then
this
my work
fucking
phone
photo
rang.
so often in horror videos. I see it so
Startled
fucking
me because
often.
I had no signal out there. I'd already
It's not a
checked
bad
and
photo,
noticed I
it's
had
just
no
that, like,
bars, but the
Every
phone
video I
buzzed
swear
anyway.
I see has this
There was
fucking
no number on
photo.
the caller ID. It just said unknown caller. I answered, and there was nothing. Just a low crackling sound, like static. I said hello twice, then hung up. Chalked it up to a glitch. I got to work. I always start with photos, documenting every room, every item. The living room was cluttered with old furniture, lace curtains, some framed paintings. It reminded me of my grandma's house. Heavy furniture, doilies, porcelain figures. The hallway had a smell.
I like the look of the
Not rot,
fireplaces.
more like mildew
It's simple
and
yet
dust,
still
and
nice.
something faintly metallic. There were 3 bedrooms. One had been stripped bare except for a sagging mattress on the floor. Another was clearly a sewing
probably,
room
Ed.
with thread spools everywhere and a dusty machine on the desk. I took a closer look, and there was a corkboard filled with old newspaper clippings. They were mostly obituaries. Dozens of them, all clipped out with scissors and pinned carefully to the board. No names I recognized, all local.
What the
I
fuck?
moved on. In the master bedroom, there was a rotary phone on the nightstand. I remember stopping and staring at it for a second because I hadn't seen one in years. It was off-white, yellowed with age, with a long coiled cord. The kind of phone that would never ring again because the line had been cut long ago. I moved on to the bathroom. That's when my phone rang again. It said unknown caller again.
I miss fucking
This
old
time, I
bathtubs like
hesitated.
this.
I picked it up.
The ones you get nowadays are fucking
tiny.
tiny.
Again,
It's like you
nothing.
can't fit in them.
This time, after about 5 seconds, I heard a whisper. Very soft, so quiet I could barely make it out.
The house is clearly stuck in
said-
time.
Don't answer the phone in the bedroom. Then the line went dead. I stood there, frozen,
Don't tell me what to do,
heart
cunt.
pounding.
That's how I'd fucking
The house
respond
was
with.
dead silent. I checked the windows, all closed. Nobody was outside, and there was no sign of forced entry. My first thought was that someone had pranked me. It's what anyone would think. Maybe one of the other crew guys was messing with me, but no one else knew I was there that early. And again, I had no signal. I checked my phone. One bar, then nothing.
For an old house,
Like it
even the
flickered
doors
in
look
and out of
fucking nice.
existence. I tried calling my supervisor.
Like the furniture looks like
call
it's falling
failed.
apart,
I decided to finish the
but the
job
doors still look
quickly.
they're in pretty good nick.
I started boxing up loose items in the living room. Books, figurines, dusty glassware. But the whole time, I felt off. Like I was being watched. I kept glancing toward the hallway, half expecting to see someone standing down there. Then the phone rang
Well,
a third
imagine you
time.
just start throwing shit at him.
But not my phone. The rotary phone in the bedroom.
He said the cord was
I heard
cut
it
though.
from
There's no
across
way
the
that fucking
house.
rings.
A shrill, mechanical ring that echoed through the rooms. That phone should have been dead. The line was disconnected. No dial tone and no service. But yet it rang, like an
I'd
old-fashioned
fucking
bell.
answer it.
I walked slowly down
Sup,
the hallway
Casper?
toward the bedroom. Phone
You
still
there
in
with
my
Chucky?
hand.
What's going on?
It rang again and again. I stepped into the doorway. The phone sat on the nightstand, the receiver trembling slightly with each ring. There was no chance I was picking up that phone. The rings eventually stopped. I backed out of the room. I wanted to leave, but part of my job was
Fuck, I
securing the
wish he answered
property,
today.
and I still had to check the basement. I almost said screw it, but something made me keep going. Maybe it was pride. Maybe I just didn't want to admit how scared I was. The basement door was in the kitchen. I opened it slowly.
Honestly, Ed,
The
eh?
stairs creaked as I stepped down, flashlight in hand. I smelled mold and something like rust. There were shelves along the wall, filled with old paint cans and some broken furniture. In the back corner, there was a small table. On it, a cordless phone, a newer model. It was gray plastic and covered in dust, and next to it, a stack of yellowed notebooks. I picked one up and flipped through it. Each page had a name and a date and a short sentence. Lena H., July 3rd, 2019. Rang once, didn't answer. Carl M., September 12th, 2019. Picked up, warned him. It was more like this, dozens of entries. I dropped the notebook, and my heart felt like it completely dropped out of my body as I looked around the basement, fearing I wasn't alone down there and that someone was watching me from any corner in the darkness. I rushed back up the stairs, looking behind me the whole time, heart in my throat. I didn't finish the job. I drove straight back to the office and turned in my report. I didn't tell them everything. I just said the property was unsafe and possibly had squatters or interference. They reassigned the job to another crew. 2 days later, I got a text from one of the other guys, Mark. He'd gone out there that morning to finish the job. I hadn't told him specifically what happened. His message said, "The phone in the bedroom with no service rang while I was in there. What the hell?" I called his work cell phone immediately, and he told me he didn't answer the phone in the house because he was too freaked out. The next day, Mark apparently quit without notice and never returned to work. He's not dead or anything. I admittedly looked him up on Facebook eventually, and he posted stuff since then, but I never spoke to him again.
Why did no one
I don't
answer
know
the
what else he
phone?
saw in the house, but it must have been something bad enough for him to want to distance himself from this job. My boss did call the police to report the potential squatters after Mark quit, but they found nobody inside of the house. Everything about that house, from its location to its eerie, dilapidated interior, to the phone calls to my cell phone, and that voice on that line, and that damn house phone ringing. It's like I found myself in a legitimate horror movie. I swear it had to be one of two things: an elaborate sick prank or an equally elaborate trap. This happened in 2019. I was in my late 20s, living alone in a rental house in a quiet neighborhood on the
Ah,
edge of
shit,
town.
missed out.
It wasn't a fancy place, just an older one-story house with creaky floors, thin walls, and a small backyard. But it was cheap, and it came with a basement, which I used to store extra furniture and tools and stuff. I moved in that spring. And for the first few months, nothing strange happened. The house had its quirks. Some pipes rattled when you
Just
turned
this
on the
last one,
shower,
right?
and there was this one kitchen cabinet that always swung
I feel
open
like
on
these
its
stories
own,
aren't
but
as good
nothing
as the
unusual
last
for a
one.
place that old. The only part I didn't like was the basement. The door was in the hallway next to the bathroom. It was heavy and stuck a little when you opened it, and the light switch for the basement was actually halfway down the stairs, which meant you had to walk down a few steps in total darkness before you could reach it. The first time I went down there, I honestly felt weird. Not scared exactly, but uneasy. The single bulb didn't do much to light the corners, and the whole place smelled like old wood.
I like the doors,
but I
they
didn't
look
have any
fucking
reason to be
weird.
down there for long, so I stored my things, shut the door, and
Should
didn't
play
think much of it.
GeoGuessr. I
That
think I'd be
changed
shit at
around
that.
late
I've played it
October.
before.
I had just gotten home from work. I'm a night shift security guard, so I usually get home around 3 a.m., and I was heading to the bathroom before bed when I heard something. It sounded like a
That
faint
reminds
knock.
me. I might put
3
my
soft
schedule in the
taps.
Discord.
It came from behind the basement
Or I
door.
forget.
I froze in place. At first, I thought maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was the pipes or the house settling. But as I stood there, holding my breath, I heard it again. 3 distinct knocks. I backed up a few steps and stared at the door, and then I waited. There was just silence now. I remember whispering to myself, "It's just the house," even though I didn't really believe it. I didn't open the door. I went to my bedroom, locked the door, and stayed awake for the next 2 hours, listening. Eventually, I fell asleep with the TV on. The next morning, I checked the basement. I opened the door, went down the stairs, and turned on the light. Everything was exactly the way I left it. No signs of anyone having been down there. No footprints in the dust, no broken windows. I convinced myself it had to be the house shifting, or maybe a small animal that got in somehow. I moved on. But a few nights later, it happened again. This time, I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth when I heard the knock. Not 3 taps this time, just 1, but it was loud, and it was close, like someone had used their knuckles hard against the basement door. I opened the bathroom door and looked. The basement door was closed. Nothing moved. The hallway was quiet. I walked over and put my ear against the wood. At first, I heard nothing, but then, very faint, I heard what sounded like breathing. Slow, steady, as if someone was standing on the other side, waiting. I backed away and went to my room, again locking the door. I called my landlord. I told him something strange was going on in the basement, that I thought someone had maybe gotten into the house somehow. He seemed skeptical, but said he'd come by to check it out. When he arrived in the morning, we both went down into the basement together. He looked around, checked the windows, the walls, even the foundation. Nothing was damaged or broken. No signs of a break-in or animals. I didn't say anything. I couldn't explain what I was hearing, and I didn't want to sound crazy. For the next week, things were quiet. I started to think that maybe I was just overtired or imagining things. I was working too much after all. But then, one night around 2 a.m., I was sitting on my couch watching TV when I heard the basement door creak. Not a knock or slam, but a creak, like it was slowly
Just run
swinging
over there with a
open.
fucking knife and
I
scare
sat
the
up
cunt.
straight and turned off the volume. I could hear it. The slow, grinding creak of the hinges moving. I got up and peeked down the hallway, and the basement door was wide
You
open.
mole.
I hadn't opened it in over a week. I hadn't even touched it. I grabbed a flashlight and slowly walked toward it. I didn't have a weapon, but I had no choice. I had to know what was going on. I stood at the top of the stairs and shined the light down. The basement was pitch black. The bulb wasn't on. I reached around the corner and flicked the switch. Nothing. It was dead. The bulb must have burned out. That's when I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. They weren't rushing, they were slow, but they were 100% footsteps. I backed away. My hands
But
were
see,
shaking.
if he's got his torch
I
on the
slammed the door
fucking...
shut and held the handle tight. For a moment,
If
I felt
he's
the pressure of
got his
something on the other
torch
side,
down
like
the
it was
stairs
leaning
and he
against
can
the
hear
door.
footsteps,
Then
he'd
it
see if somebody
stopped.
was there or not.
I locked the door and called the police. I told them someone was in my basement. They showed up about 10 minutes later, and 2 officers cleared the house and went down into the basement. I stood in the front yard, waiting, and after what felt like forever, they came back up. They said they didn't find anyone. No signs of forced entry or anyone hiding. Nothing was even disturbed. One of them even tried to laugh it off, asking if I'd been watching scary movies. I knew what I heard. After they left, I didn't go back inside right away. I just stood there, staring at that house. Finally, I went back in, locked every door and
clearly it's just
window,
fucking
and
haunted,
stayed
like-
up until the sun came up. That morning, I bought a padlock and installed it on the basement door. I didn't care if it was allowed or not. I needed it. For the next month, the basement stayed quiet. No sounds or knocks or anything. I almost let myself relax. Then one night, I got home from work and noticed the basement door was open.
And throw it
Not just
downstairs,
unlocked,
Just fucking
the
keep that
padlock
shit.
was lying on the floor, broken. The door itself
Sorry,
was
Grandma, but
slightly
your knees are
ajar.
going.
I hadn't touched that door in weeks. I stood there staring at it, and for the first time, I realized something. Every time this had happened, every noise and every knock, it had always happened at night when I was alone. I did not go down. I couldn't. I packed a bag, left the house, and stayed at a friend's place for a few days. When I came back, I literally nailed the basement door shut. I even wedged a chair against the door. I didn't care if the landlord got mad. I just couldn't look at that door anymore. A few nights later, around 3 a.m., I was laying in bed when I heard a sound that I still can't explain. It was a voice. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even someone speaking. Like the barely audible sound of
Nail
a
the
rumble of someone's
door.
vocal cords. It came from somewhere beneath the floorboards, directly under my bed. That was it. I called the police again. They showed up, did their search, and nothing turned up again. So I packed everything, minus the stuff in the basement, and I left. I didn't even wait for the lease to end. I don't know what was in that basement. I don't want to know. All I can say is that sometimes when I lie awake at night in my new apartment, I think about all of this, and I wonder if I'd waited just a little longer, what would have come up those steps?
Cunt, if you had a fucking torch, you should have been able to see. I don't understand. He said he had his torch shining down the stairs. There's no way you wouldn't have been able to fucking see with a torch. Like, I don't understand. Bro, let me out. I finished fixing a boiler 3 weeks ago. Oh, fuck. Honestly, he could have just had a fucking squatter that was just fucking chilling. Do they have any more? I might even fucking look at that Randonautica one. Oh, for fuck's sake. Not in that. Hang on, I don't want it in a fucking new window. There's a lot of fucking Tinder ones, hey? I hear a lot of fucking Tinder stories that go bad. What else is there? Before I go on to the next channel. Okay, we saw the real footage one. What the fuck is that? Pesadilla. I don't even fucking know how to pronounce that cunt, to be honest with you.
Randonautica is an app that uses a random number generator and location
Should I
settings to create coordinates for users to explore in their local areas. The
Should I
app was
fucking use
released
this
in
in Brisbane
February
and take a video
2020
for you
and
guys?
became especially popular during the
Because in
COVID
Cairns it
lockdowns.
was fucking
People
creepy.
would often document their findings through video and post them
Like, I'll
online.
admit I had one really
Sometimes
nice
people
place
find
that was just a
downright
really
creepy
pretty
things or
cove,
places, or even
but
find
everywhere else
themselves
was
at the
just
scene of a
fucking
crime.
random and terrifying.
A viewer named David sent me this first story and footage. It was August
Nightmare
of
in Spanish.
2020.
Oh, is it?
The weather had been good, and so he and a friend decided to use Randonautica out of boredom. They generated 4 anomalies
No,
in
'cause I've
total,
gotta- at
since
night
the
I've
first
gotta
3
go to
were in
that
someone's backyard or
tunnel.
inaccessible locations.
I just don't want to go alone.
In the app, anomalies are points that can be
And then I
either
also wanna go to
attractors
somewhere
or
else at night
voids.
that I've been during the day
Attractors
with
are
my
clusters
partner.
of random points that are
But I
very
can't
dense,
go alone,
while
so we went there
voids are
during the day,
clusters
there
with
was a
a very
squatter.
low density. The fourth
And
anomaly
to be
looked
fair, the
promising,
squad had no
and so
issue
the
that we
two
were there.
friends
He was
drove
doing
there.
his own thing.
You can
We
see on
left
the
him
screen
alone.
the
He left
street
us
they drove
alone.
down, followed by the
But
small
I don't want
path
him
they
to at
went
night
down
attack
after
me if I go
parking.
there at night, so I
The
don't want to go
anomaly had a
alone.
radius of 470 meters, so it was a fairly big
But I
area.
have a friend who
but they
moved here and
didn't
she'll
have to
happily
look
go with
around
me to
for
these
long
places.
before making
It's
a
just
bizarre
finding the
and
time for
honestly
both of us to
creepy
actually be able to
discovery.
go together.
This is a photograph of the path they walked down, and as they walked down, they stumbled across a note stuck through a stick. On the outside of it, it read, "Write down your cell phone number." When folded open, it read, "I can give you a cell phone number or even an email address. Give me your mail address and I will send you it," with what it is referring to remaining unclear.
So
Sorry, it's one of
you can
those
see, first of
fucking
all,
nights
it
at my
says,
house.
Write down your cell phone number. When you fold it open, ich kann dir eine Handynummer geben oder sogar eine E-Mail-Adresse. Gib mir eine Mailadresse und ich sende es dir.
So they want the email
So it
address.
says somewhere along the lines, I can give you a cell phone number or even an email address. Give me an email address and I'll send it to you. So yeah, that was just hanging on this tree here, on this branch, this piece of paper. I'm gonna put it back.
He ended up writing his number on the note and putting it back on the stick. Right next to the note were a bunch of bras lined up on a fallen tree branch with no explanation.
So yeah, that's a bunch of bras. In total, 1, 2, 3, 4, behind there, 5, 6. There are more.
Oh, one of these
items
bitches
couldn't have been
have
left there
big
for more
old
than a few
tits. What the
days, as
fuck?
they were
That's
discovered on the
huge.
6th of August.
Sorry.
The last rainfall was 3 days earlier, yet the piece of
What
paper
the
showed
fuck?
no signs of ever having gotten wet. Among some of the other things that the friends found at the scene were 2 packages of condoms and a pot that was seemingly used for a fire. The friends returned the next day on the 7th.
Yeah, it's probably a popular
and the note where
place
he
for
wrote down
cunts to
his
go and
number
get
was
fucking
gone.
laid or something,
A few
dickhead.
days later, he got a text from an unknown number just saying hi. He answered saying, "Hi, who is this?" The number then replied his address, and at this point he blocked the number. Whatever or whoever this little
I'd be
scene
giving
was
that
meant
to the
for
police.
remains a mystery.
Because what if those are trophies?
This following footage, posted online by Taylor Vasquez, documents her disturbing findings when also using Randonautica. She downloaded the app and generated a location not far from her house. The location turns out to be an
Honestly.
abandoned creek-looking area.
So I keep seeing that Randonut thing all over TikTok, and I really want to try it out. So I just downloaded the app, and I found a
This
location that's like a
Randonautica
mile and a
app
half
came
from my
out
house. So I'm
years
gonna
ago.
go
Like
check
when
it
it
out
first
and see if
came
I
out,
can
I got it.
Nothing seems out of the
And it was
ordinary
only
at
until
first,
after
and it
like the
seems like a
first
typical
6
random
months that it
location
started
the app
getting
could lead
creepy and I
somebody
stopped
to,
using it.
until she finds a series of disturbing drawings, seemingly done by a child.
Pretty creepy.
That's called graffiti,
Let's see
cunt.
what that is.
I'm sorry, but
Okay, so I just opened up
Oh,
one of the
actual photos.
and it's whatever the fuck that is. Then we have these random 3. This one's it's your birthday with the snowman with
it was like someone's trash. You know what I mean?
these 2 I just put together. It's like play with me.
It's a fucking devil or some shit. What the fuck?
Alright, I think it was just my imagination. I think I'm just hearing shit.
As she's analyzing the drawings, she suddenly hears an unsettling sound.
Play with me.
It sounds like the
That
voice
sounds
of
like
a
a
young
child's
child.
toy.
But the video cuts here. On a later date, Taylor returns to the creek.
sounds like, you know,
but this
those,
time there
like,
are new
the
drawings that
talking
weren't
dolls.
there last time. According to her, these ones being even creepier than the previous series of drawings. With
See,
one
it
of the
also
drawings
looks like a
being sigil
popular
of
swimming spot,
Baphomet.
maybe.
As
There's a
she's
creek.
distracted by the drawings,
Is there water
the voice
there?
of a
I didn't see.
child can once again be heard in the background.
If they have messages on them, because then, like, those look like symbols.
At first, she doesn't seem to hear it, but once she does, she makes a dash for it, and the video cuts.
See, I reckon it's also some
seen
kids just
anything
fucking with her. You know what I mean? You put some
After uploading the
fucking
video to TikTok,
drawings
a
there,
viewer pointed
have a
out what
little
appears to be
kid
the face of a
sound.
young child peering from behind a tree.
No one was with me, and tell me if you guys think that looks like a ghost child, because I don't
Just
know.
play the video, bitch.
Taylor
Come on.
uploads another video analyzing a journal she picked up from the creek, with each page revealing another unsettling message. Taylor returns to the creek one last time.
Yeah, so
and
this is
finds
way
not
too
only a
staged.
Ouija board made out of a piece of cardboard, but also a large knife sitting next to it.
Free knife.
This was the last time Taylor
That's making
dared
me
to return to
financially
the
stable.
creek,
Free
and so
knife.
whatever was going on here will remain a mystery. As with many things posted on the internet, there's no 100% proof that this whole series of videos weren't staged. However, there were certain aspects of the videos that viewers feel make them feel more realistic. Mainly
That's
the
fucking
weathered-looking
weird,
pieces
man.
of paper
Sorry.
that
No
contain
offense
the
to this
drawings,
chick, but
along with the coordinates
fuck
they were
right off.
given, reached a secluded beach area where they saw a suitcase washed up that contained something disturbing. But I'll talk more about that in a bit. Davy and her roommate Ash
You would see
saw
some
this and
people
were determined
plant
to make
shit
their
on
own
this app.
unsettling
That's the
discovery on
only
the
bad
app.
part.
They
Like
invited
some
two
people
other
will
friends
go
to
to a
join
location,
them, and when they all got
plant-
together, they gathered
excuse
in
me,
Davy's room and
plant
figured out how to
something
use the
knowing
app.
someone else is going
They
to come
set a
and see
radius
it.
around their current location, 29 kilometers, or around 18 to 19 miles.
They have some
After
symbols
hitting
on
the
it. It was
button
a
to get
dick.
the location, a screen popped up telling them to set their intentions for what
Another
they
kid
want to
got
learn
some
and
taste,
experience
but
during
nice
the
honestly.
outing. The word they inputted was spooky. The location the app gave was eerily close to her house. Davy and her friends live in a rural
You would see
part of
this looks
Alabama.
like, you can see a clear driveway. In Australia, for example, in Australia, there would be two big signs here saying like camping spot 1 and 2 or some shit. Because this looks just like a camping spot. It's all flat. There'd be like 1, 2, 3, probably 4 camping sites here.
Lookout Mountain.
Like, this would
And
be
at
normal.
the bottom of the mountain is an abandoned steel plant, among a few other abandoned buildings in a lower income neighborhood. The location it gave the group of friends was 3 streets away from them. The location was on a very long road that led on for miles and miles without any other intersecting streets. The friends gathered into Davy's car with her friend Misa.
I love how he goes, abandon this, abandon that, lower income area, so obviously there's not gonna be a lot of people living there. And then he goes, the road goes for miles and miles. Yeah, because clearly you're in a fucking secluded neighborhood. If 3/4 of it is abandoned, no one's gonna be building new property out there. So of course the road's gonna be fucking long.
In the passenger
Bro.
seat and her friends Ash and Beck sitting in the back seat. It didn't take long
Bruh.
for the girls to get to the street, and as Davy was about to turn left, she looked at the street sign Owl's Hollow Road. Davy's friends went from loud and excited to instantly quiet.
Like
as she
every
said,
fucking
"We're
road,
here."
eh?
Davy continued driving down this dark road surrounded by trees and no street lamps. It was pitch black and around 1 a.m., so the group was definitely feeling the creepiness factor kicking in.
Yeah, because they're not
As
gonna
they
have
approached
street lights in the middle of
destination,
fucking
Davy pulled to
nowhere.
the side of the road.
Bro.
At this point, all 3 of
What?
Davy's friends were becoming apprehensive about the whole thing, as they saw a very
Like, oh
dark
yeah, let's
trail
just
that
go
led
from
into the
straight from the
woods.
city to the
four
fucking
friends
highways
sat in
with
the car
lights
for
and
a
waste
few
a bunch of
minutes and
money.
laughed nervously
Because
about whether they
cars,
should
you
go
know,
through
they
with
don't
this or
have
not, but they all
headlights.
felt uneasy. The group started to agree that it felt like they were being watched. Despite being in a locked car, they felt vulnerable being alone with just a dying phone and a switchblade, so they all agreed to leave. And they
Like, I get this, that the feeling of being alone. Like, when I drove from Cairns to Brisbane, because my partner and I, we drove up in separate cars, whenever I pulled over for Hazel so she could go toilet, yes, I felt like I was being watched. Because I was in the middle of nowhere, it was fucking dark, but you can tell when you're not. Like, you know that feeling's there because you're alone. So even though I'd let her around, I'd be shitting myself because it was pitch fucking black. I would still be able to go, you're just alone, you're somewhere new, this is fucking normal. Like, of course you're gonna feel like you're being watched. You're somewhere fucking in the middle of nowhere. But I just thought that people would know, like, that, you know, she's got all of her friends. I thought they'd
pulled
just be
off
like, oh,
further
it's just
down the
fine,
road.
it's just us.
They kept driving, exploring this narrow
Like,
road.
it's,
There's nothing but
I hope that
trees
makes
and
sense.
the
I just had a
occasional
fucking
street
ramble, I'm
lamp.
sorry, but
Davey
I hope it
was
makes
getting
sense to
tired
anyone
and decided
watching.
to just do a 3-point turn on the very narrow road and go back home. There was a sense of relief until the group realized they had to pass the trail again. As they passed it, Davey
So do we
looked in
get
her
to see
rearview
this
mirror
trail?
and saw what seemed to be a hooded male figure standing in front of the trail. She pressed the gas even harder, but she
Quick, run
didn't
him
tell
over.
her friends what she saw because she didn't want to scare them.
Wait, did I
The
miss
friends
it? Did y'all
briefly
see
talked
it?
about that night before going to sleep around 2 a.m. The next morning, Beck went home
excuse me,
and
fucking
Davey
hell.
took Ash to work. Misa decided to hang out with Davey for a little longer
Sorry, I
before
just
she had to
burped
be
into the
home in a few
microphone. I'm
hours.
so fucking
They
sorry.
discussed going back to the trail since it was daylight and they felt a bit more comfortable. They made their way back to the trail
Can
and
we-
got out of the car, this time with keys and phone in one hand. The friends briefly talked about that night before going to sleep
Let's
around 2
fucking
a.m.
try and see
The
this
next
shit
morning,
again.
Beck went home and Davey took it standing in front of the trail. The group
I
realized
like how
they
it
had
says
to pass the
most
trail again.
replayed, because no one's probably fucking seen the cunt either.
As they passed it, Davey looked in her rearview mirror and saw what seemed to be a hooded male figure standing in front of the trail. She pressed the gas even harder, but she
Okay,
didn't
so you
tell her
can't
friends
actually
what she
see
saw
the
because she
trail.
didn't want to scare them.
You just see the fucking
The friends
road.
briefly talked about that night before going to sleep around 2 a.m. The next morning, Beck went home and Davy took Ash to work. Misa decided to hang out with Davy
Sylvester's
for a little
first.
longer before she had to be home in a few hours. They discussed going
Fuck's
back to the
sake.
trail since it was daylight and they felt a bit more comfortable.
It was pitch
They
black
made
at
their
about
way
1
back to the
a.m.
trail.
Yeah, no shit,
They
I
got
thought
out
that
of
was
the
a
car,
very
this time
touchy.
with
It was
keys
so
and phone
dirty.
in one hand and pocket knife in the other. As they walked up the trail,
Yeah, so this
they
clearly
realized it
hasn't
led
been
uphill,
used for a
something
while.
they
I
didn't
mean, you can
notice the
see
night
that
before
there's
because it
clearly
was so
been
dark.
cars driven through
They started
here.
to feel like something
But
was
given
off,
how
like they were
overgrown that
being
is, I
watched
would say
again.
that probably hasn't
They
been
made it to the
used
top of the
in
trail, which led to a
3
clearing,
months,
almost
roughly,
like
by
a
how
dump site,
overgrown
as she
that is.
described it.
Oh, but there's shit there, so someone's been there.
There were tires, fast food garbage, household items, etc.
So normal shit for a camping ground. There you go.
The two
Tires,
started
a
looking
bunch
around
of
some
wood.
more and came across a bunch of mattresses
rubbish.
scattered throughout the clearing. The
Camping
disturbing
ground.
part was the mattresses were made beds. Pillows, blankets, sheets, all that you'd expect on a made bed. The sight was so unsettling that the
Common
two friends
shit
agreed
for
to
squatters.
leave.
Squatters
They
do
hurried
go at
back
camping
downhill
grounds
towards
because
the
they don't
car,
get checks
and
that
about
often.
halfway,
They can
Lisa
hitchhike
stopped in
out.
front of Davy and pointed into the woods and said, "What is that?" As she spotted
I know
a
I'm
red
looking
cooler
into
in
this a lot,
small
but I'm
ditch,
just saying,
something
it's
they
just-
hadn't seen on the way uphill.
It's a
They stepped
camping
down into
ground.
the ditch
I
to
don't-
examine it, and as they walked over to it, all the two friends could smell was the stench of something rotting.
Human sense. Oh
Upon
my
looking
god.
around the surrounding area, she spotted a dead cat carcass lying a few meters away. Avoiding getting too close to the dead carcass, she grabbed a big stick and tilted the cooler upright, which had a bit of weight to it, making it difficult. Something could be heard sloshing around inside of it, like it was full of ice. She shoved the stick into the top of it and
probably
opened it
someone's
slightly.
leftover
And when it
cooler.
opened, a gust of hot, moist, putrid air hit Davy in the face. Bugs and maggots immediately started coming out of the cooler, along with a horrid smell of decaying,
Ew.
overpowering the smell of the cat. Upon opening it a little more, what she saw was a wad of wet, matted black hair. Davy ran back to Misa and yelled to get in the car. The two sped down the road as Misa frantically asked Davy what was in the cooler, but she couldn't open her
Someone's
mouth in
weak.
fear of puking. After driving a little ways up the road,
Yeah, I would have
hoping
kicked
to
it
find a
over
driveway
just to have it
assist in
fall
turning
out to see if it was ahead.
Davy eventually
Just to
gave
know.
up and did another really tight three-point
Like if the
turn on
cops
narrow
asked you why I
road.
kicked it over, like, I just
The
wanted
two
to
would
know
have
if it was
pass
ahead
the
or not.
trail one more time. As they did, Davy noticed some pieces of wood in the road that had not been there before. She looked around and saw the same hooded male figure from the night before, standing in the woods. She drove her car over the pieces of wood, damaging the bottom of her front bumper, and then sped off back home. She and her friend
big
returned
was
to
the
the trail
fucking
one
wood?
more time since this incident to record the trail, which was the footage you've been seeing. Davy has deleted the Randonautica app and not used it since. Earlier I had mentioned that there was a video that inspired Davy and her friends to try the app themselves. That video was filmed by a couple TikTok users, who each posted their own angles of the video.
Guys, we
Fucking hell.
a suitcase at the
Gabby, go. I'll hold your stuff.
Bro. Wait, open it.
I mean, depending what country you live in, the money's not going to be usable.
Thanks, y'all.
Like Australia, our money's wrapped in plastic, so it's fine. Oh, it's drugs. Make bank. Open that shit up. Fucking run. Hide from the cartel. Make bank.
Okay, so she's
You're
calling the
set.
police so we
Go
can
retire.
see if it's actually a
All right,
dead body
video's
or
done.
it's just food. Here's the crime scene.
Yo,
So
they
we
even got
just found
fucking
the
two
suitcase
fucking fire trucks as well for that shit.
Opening it up with the sticks,
Oh, imagine going to the beach and you see two fire trucks. I'd be so confused. I'd be like, bro, it's water. The fuck? If you're on fire, throw them in the
The
ocean.
Randonautica app generated a location that led them to a rocky breakwall below a jetty at the shore of Alki Beach in West Seattle, when they found a mysterious black
See,
suitcase
that
washed
goes
up on a
see,
bunch
get
of
the fuck
rocks under the
away.
bridge. As they approached the suitcase,
I don't know what
they
was in
realized
it.
there was a foul odor emitting from the suitcase.
It's probably a
the
dead
contents
body.
of the suitcase may be more disturbing than they had initially thought. The teens called the police, but with Seattle police response times being notoriously slow, the police took 3 to 4 hours to show up, and by that time, the tide had risen enough to where the suitcase had washed away.
Oh
It
shit.
took a scuba team to retrieve the suitcase and its contents. The contents were indeed quite disturbing. The remains of a couple,
body.
Jessica Lewis, who was 35, and
Oh,
Austin
shit.
Wenner, who was 27, were found inside of the black garbage bag inside the suitcase. Their murderer
could
was
fit
their
two
landlord,
bodies in
Michael
that.
Dudley, who the pair had previously argued with regarding their rent payments. It was reported by neighbors that on the night of the pair's murder, a male voice could be heard screaming, "Please don't do this, just let me leave," before gunshots were fired. And this was reportedly 10 days before the suitcase was found. The videos had eventually been taken down by the teens. With so many people using an app that's designed to send you to randomly generated places, it's inevitable that sometimes people are going to run into some horrific things that they were not.
That's fucked. Alright, I'll reinstall the app. Fine, you convinced me. Not to find the last one though, sorry, I don't fucking want that. If I'm paying taxes to the fucking city I live in and the cops take 4 hours to come and change your countries, don't move to Australia. I'm not saying they'll take 4 hours, but people have complained because their fucking ambulances never showed up here. Not common, but it has happened, so it does scare me sometimes, because I'm like, if I call an ambulance, you better fucking arrive, because what the fuck? Oh, I haven't seen this channel in ages. Forgot about this channel. If anything, the killer is very... Yep, I'm not going to finish that one either, because I don't want Twitch to fucking yell at me. I shouldn't laugh though either, I'm not laughing. Oh, I'm going to hell, it's okay. Unexplained videos, maybe? The lamp looks weird. Can't, what the fuck? I'm not watching that because the fucking lamp looks weird. Yeah, that looks fucking fake as shit. I am sorry, but there ain't no fucking way. Oh look, an angel caught on camera. What a load of horse shit. No offense to anyone who believes in fucking that shit, but I can't talk, I believe in ghosts and shit, so. What the fuck? So most of these are clearly paranormal, which is fine, but... What the fuck? I'm curious for this one. The old woman who lived with 92 ghosts. She probably got the safest house on the block. I'm sorry, but come on over and you're gonna have fucking 90 ghosts fucking carry you out and you'd be fucking levitating. This one just looks funny, so we're gonna click that one as well. Right, let's have a look.
A strange creature that transforms as the recording progresses. An object causing a storm, and even the videos of the first positions that will make you shudder.
From Island or shit?
That's just the tip of the iceberg that you will know about in this collection. Because my name is Leonore Clay, and this is The Darkest Secret.
Fuck, that was an intro and a half. Oh wait, sorry, if anyone watching, this is The Darkest Secret YouTube channel. Credit to them, blah blah blah. You fucking know it. Bro, how she counted the ghosts, yeah. This is Bob 1, Bob 2, Bob 3, Bob 4.
In his email, he tells us, I'm sure
I shouldn't joke about ghosts. Sorry guys, I know there's two in this house. My bad.
We all already know what Nawals are. Supposed
what the fuck is that?
Capable of turning into
that's a rat dog, bro. That's not a fucking Nawal. That's a dog that's fucked a rat.
At first, I just saw a man trying to walk on all fours. But as it progresses,
plot twist, she was married.
You realize that it can't be a man. Observe.
There's literally a Facebook page in Australia that has over 98,000 members because they believe that, what's it, that Bigfoot exists in Australia. And there's like sightings of him and shit and it cracks me up. I think this is just Photoshop or some crackhead who's out to get dinner. Like, that or E.T. forgot to go home. I don't know which one. Like, look at this motherfucker. Sorry, I'm gonna lose brain cells if I have to watch that again. Sorry.
When they came across an odd house.
There's people in the sewer, so we start running, right? Naturally, we run straight into the creepiest house on the block. I mean, look at this thing.
That's a spooky house.
Yeah, he loves this stuff. I mean, look at this house. I mean, windows are broken out, graffiti all over it. There might be a hole underground that leads right to the sewer
like
because,
ghost?
you know, Rowan's got his pinwheel and he loves it. Man, I'm telling you, there's something in there. I mean, Rowan can smell it. I mean, Daryl can smell it.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I forget how it goes, but
And Rowan hears it. You know, look at him.
I love how
Then
you
my phone
hear
tweets
shit
out of
in
nowhere,
there, and his
and then
kid's
this
just like, I'm
happened.
gonna stand on it.
Whoa. What is that?
Oh, it's Pennywise. It's coming to get him.
Right one out.
What the fuck, actually?
Can't see. What is it?
If it's fake, that's impressive, because that semi looks real.
Nope, I'm out.
Maybe it's Halloween.
He was
Paid
recording the
actors.
sewer when the flash.
Although,
on
why
his
the fuck would you
camera
jump
went
in there?
off
That'd be
by
gross
air.
as fuck,
His
surely.
cell phone showed that the flash was
But
still
it looks
on.
it
That
looks
would
realistic,
only
the
be
hands. I gotta
omen
give
of what
credit, the
happened
hands do
next.
look realistic.
Whoa. What is that? Right one out.
Wait for it, the next hand that comes looks realistic. Where is it? That one. That looks like an actual fucking hand.
Strange fingers emerge from inside the sewer. Not just one hand, but
Bro, my
several
house keeps
hands.
making noise. She's a little active tonight.
Throughout the video, both the little one and the pet were restless. Maybe because they somehow perceived this. What do you think? Real or fake?
Where do we put the line? I wear
Leave me your
a
opinions
size
in
11
the
UK.
comment
Am I a
box.
Bigfoot?
Number
The
6.
dog can smell it. It's so attractive. Honestly.
What you will see next is quite shocking, astonishing, and
I like her
odd for
voice.
the most part. A woman was recording a storm
No
because
offense
she
to her.
noticed something
Nothing
very
against
strange
you,
in the
lady.
sky.
You got good content.
Look,
I'm not here to watch fucking lightning. I'm
they were
sorry.
watching deers when they suddenly noticed something bizarre, but it had gotten lost in the movement until they managed to record it on video.
Fuck, I'm
Whoever
gonna have an
recorded it
aneurysm. What
says
the
in the
fuck?
description that it was not human.
That's so shaky. Bro, fuck me.
How do you track them? 2 more black dots.
Oh my god. My head's gonna pop off.
Oh, what the crap?
Ah, that's fucking fake as shit. Look at him.
What the frick? What was that?
They got the fucking BFG coming in the neighborhood. He's here to collect your kids. Take him up for fucking Snozcumber, whatever it's called.
What the?
Where is he? Where's the BFG? Where's this big motherfucker?
That was a skinwalker.
A skinwalker. Fuck off.
So at first glance, what do you think it is?
I nearly spat out my fucking drink, cunt. There's no way that's real. Get fucked.
I watched it many times,
It's a
and I still can't
skinwalker.
correctly say what we're seeing here. I thought maybe it was
Bro.
a man on a horse or an ATV, but his
No,
goal
fuck that.
was
I'm
to
gonna lose
scare
brain
his
cells.
friends
I
with a
can't.
horror story. It
No
wasn't
way she
until
referred to an
after
electric
he
storm.
shared the
Shocking.
video that he would notice the creepiness.
Someone please tell Mr. Parkinson. Oh shit. What's wrong with the elevator door, bro? Close that shit. Just close it, cunt. Oh, peekaboo. Come here, sweet child. You're staying with me. Wait for it, little fucking head. Oh. See, what if it's just a worker who's like, bitch, get the fuck in the elevator, cunt.
A strange face appears to look at him.
Oh, okay, I accidentally spoiled the next one, but that's
The
fine.
curious thing is that other people have reported in this same hospital that you even witness footsteps and whispers of people following them when there is no one else
It's
in the
Batman.
hallways. The voice or presence is always the same. A woman. No one has seen her, but everyone, when telling the story,
Bruh.
mention a woman. In
Yeah,
the comments
honestly,
of this
eh,
video, it
close
is
the
believed
fucking
that
door.
that face was a spirit from this hospital. The same spirit that prevented the elevator from closing. What do you believe?
See, because now that I work in
Number
aged care,
3.
I've like already been warned that obviously being aged care, a lot of people pass away to expect ghosts to be in the
young
building.
man who was recording this
But the
video
building I'm in
a
is
fisherman,
fucking not
one of
that
those who
old,
must
so I
go
don't think
out
it's
at
gonna have many
night and
ghosts in it.
immerse in the most terrible swell waves. Well, he's been doing this for so
What the
long
fuck?
that he no longer records his nights. However,
Bro,
this
I
time,
can't see shit, can't.
everything changed. He started this
What are you gonna
recording
do,
because
record the
according
fishes?
to him, he began to hear strange voices in the distance, in the middle of the ocean.
Not the PS2 graphics.
What is that noise?
He
Honestly.
immediately thought that perhaps it was a woman who had fallen from a cruise ship, and the ship immediately began investigating the area. He screamed as much as he could, but no one answered him.
Bro, the water's that choppy. You ain't gonna be able to stop in time to save her. Look at those fucking waves. That's choppy as fuck.
Everything started to change tone when he started hearing these other noises.
This is crazy. I heard it. I heard it.
Doesn't that sound like dolphins and shit make? They do that squeak. Even those fucking, what are they called? Killer whales? They make that squeak. I've heard it in a video.
Oh my god.
Like that's just fucking sea animals
Everything
telling you to
became
fuck
dark
off
at
because
that
you're in their
moment.
way.
So the ship began to move away, and when it did, this happened.
On each side of the boat? What are those trails called? What's something swimming fast underneath that water? Something swimming real fast underneath that water.
It's gonna get you.
I hear him. Where's he at? What the fuck is that noise?
The entire crew knew then that it was not a woman who had fallen. They had come into contact with the legends, with what was always said about deep sea fishermen, mermaids.
I'm not
What do you
watching
think?
shit in the fucking
Is
sky
this
explode,
video
cunt.
real?
I hear him. Where's
Where
he
else
at?
this one? Yeah, I don't need to
thought
fucking hear
that
you
that
screaming,
was
bitch.
What we were seeing, until it wasn't. Watch.
Okay. Oh, for fuck's sake. A drone, maybe? What in the fuck, cunt? It looks like a fucked up drone. Oh. Yeah, because the fucking rain's fucking it up. Clearly that's something that's fucking needs to get put down. Elon Musk, come get your fucking globe, cunt. Is that all this one
Suddenly
is?
it disappears
Just a fucking ball?
and reappears. The strangest thing is that out of nowhere it turns into a real steel ball, as if it were indeed an alien device. Due to the proliferation of videos made
Tell
with
the aliens
AI,
they lost their football,
I tried to
fuck's sake.
study in depth to see if I found any errors. For example, in the number of spokes that the tire has, or the model of the vehicle, since the AI does not always respect these things.
Bro, I don't fucking know. No offense, lady, but what the fuck? Oh, here we go. Fucking Betsy with her fucking 92 life partners. What do you see in this picture? Very vivid white here.
At first, you can't tell. But
That's about it.
this is an example of the entities with which the woman that you're about to know had to live with. This is
She looks like a
just the
dressing
tip of the
gown,
iceberg.
like hanging on a
More
hook.
than
Do
a
you know what I
dozen
mean?
photos like this one arrive in my email and serve as evidence for one of the most
Is that a
spectacular
shadow though?
stories that I've
Is that not the
received.
shadow from the person taking a photo? I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to like.
For years, this channel has
Bro,
become
that
one
looks
of
like
the
fucking a
largest
Star
when it
Wars
comes to
robot. What the
presenting
fuck?
paranormal videos, whose probability of being real is quite high. That is my objective. Carlos Jara is his name. He writes to us by email, telling us a terrifying scenario. His email is titled, The 92 Ghosts of My Nana. He begins by telling us that he was remodeling a house that he had inherited from his grandmother, his Nana. An old and poorly maintained house.
Fuck it, oh.
Almost the entire vinyl floor
Oh, real images.
was molded.
Yes. Okay, I like this.
Several
Real
areas
images.
of the house have broken boards, so he
Man,
had
I
a
should
lot
just
to
fucking
repair,
search up horror
especially
videos with real
since
footage.
his goal was to sell it. So he decided to start with his grandmother's room.
The fuck did you put up the walls? Or is that mold?
With dark patches of mold everywhere.
Yeah, mold.
They started pulling out the boards to see how bad the mold was. It turns out
The
that while
house.
they were taking out the flooring,
Excuse me.
the carpenters told him
The
that
house
they had
itself
found
doesn't
a
look
locked
that
trunk.
bad, though.
It was odd and worn out. He did not have the key, and for that reason, he had to take it to a locksmith. When he was finally able to open it,
what pills she
he
taking,
found
bro?
a horrifying surprise. A surprise that today has explained dozens of incidences he experienced as a child.
Oh fuck it,
A
what's in
story
it?
that I know will make you shudder. So get comfortable in your seat, and if you're
Bro, get
brave,
on with it.
turn
Under
off
there.
the lights.
I can't, because then they won't see me on the fucking camera if I turn off the lights. Wish I could, but you won't see shit.
Carlos wrote us an extensive letter that is not necessary to share with you today. There, he gives us even the smallest of detail on everything.
Playground mansion.
An experience that, according to him, began in his childhood. Therefore, after being consumed by a story, I decided to tell you in the correct order, from what he remembers when he was a child.
Okay.
You see, in order to understand the context, it is necessary to go back to the year 1993, when Carlos was 12. It turns out that as a child and part of his youth, he went to his grandmother's house every Saturday. A nice, adorable old woman, a book lover. In fact, he remembers that the house had dozens of shelves full of old books, more than half of which he had no idea what they were about. A kind lady who from time to time would go into a sour and unpleasant state of mind for no
Dude,
apparent
she does
reason.
talk very fucking slow.
That is what Carlos remembers.
Like, nothing against
most
it, it's
about
just
her.
probably how she speaks, but fuck.
In spite of everything, he liked that house.
You can speed this
because it
shit
was
up, can't you?
big. It had 2 living rooms and many other rooms.
I don't know if this would help.
He also tells us that as a
Probably
child,
gonna be too much.
he loved to play hide and seek
There
along
we
his
go.
old hallways. However, there were a couple of times that strange things happened to him in that house. I know that this has also happened to you, having a deep memory of something strange that you experienced and that you never forgot. You see, he described in great detail all the things he experienced while he stayed in that house. But here I will leave you the most interesting ones. He tells me that he doesn't know if he really lived them like that, or if his mind has changed them. He asks himself this question, because the things he experienced are
Can you
extremely
get
horrifying.
on with it? Fuck
On one
me.
occasion, he was sleeping in one of the
Again,
two
I'm
guest
sorry,
rooms
lady. I'm just
and
impatient,
woke
but
up to go to the
fuck.
bathroom. On the way there, he began to hear some noises.
6.5 minutes to get to the fucking story. Again, to this lady, I'm sorry. I do enjoy your channel. You make very good content.
The corridor where he was located led directly to the dining room. There was no light to turn on. He just stood there, paralyzed, saying that he remembers the sound of moving chairs, as if someone was relocating them and opening cabinets. He assumed it was a thief. Terror took over him, and he did nothing but take refuge in the bathroom. The next morning, he discussed this with his
Bro, it took a
grandparents.
7-hour
But even
shit.
when he checked, everything was in place. Nothing looked like a thief had broken in, nor was it anyone present at the house at that moment. To this day, he remembers that event and assures that it was real. He is not
Wait,
sure if
all
everything
92
happened as he
ghosts are playing
remembers,
musical
since
chairs.
things were moving aggressively. He also remembers when he was 15, when he was in the kitchen and saw the reflection of something strange in his teacup while at a family gathering. It was like a dark reflected shadow standing right in the doorway behind him. Also, during that time, he tells us that he had spent a week on vacation there with his cousins. They played and had fun, but on one occasion while he was running through one of the corridors, he began to smell something similar to a bum. That typical smell of someone who hasn't bathed in weeks and leaves a trace of aroma in the place where they passed by. That same odor was emitted there, and since they were playing hide and seek, Carlos thought it would be a good way to find the one that hadn't bathed, following its disgusting trail. Therefore, he was going to follow the aroma that was very strong. But he was led to the bathroom on the first floor, and there, once he opened the curtain to see if someone was hiding in the bathtub, he felt that someone tugged at him by the shirt. It was sudden, brief, but very intense. So much so that he ended up with the nails marked on his torso. But when he turned around, no one was there. He is sure that it is impossible for any of his cousins to have escaped and disappeared so quickly. He says that he had taken a photo of the marks left on his torso from that grip, but he does not remember where they are. The most curious thing was that later his cousins assured him that absolutely none of them had hidden in the bathroom. Then he told me about the other 15 different experiences he had. But the last odd thing he lived through in that house was on one of his last visits at the age of 17. He spent the night there because they celebrated a new year. He woke up at dawn because he started to feel someone's leg in the bed. It is something normal when you sleep with someone else's leg under the sheets. He accidentally kicked that leg, and that made him wake up. He felt it with his foot.
What?
Its bony heel, and it was indeed an adult leg. He doesn't know if it was a man's or a woman's, since it was very wide and large. It couldn't be any of his cousins, and that was the only possibility, because adults never
So
slept
just
in
turn
rooms with
around
them.
and see who's there. What the
When
fuck?
he turned to see who was sleeping next to him.
Bro.
Could you believe it? Indeed. No one was there.
This is a prosthetic leg from one of his fucking cousins.
The next morning when he told the story, the family took it as a joke. His cousins assured that they had also experienced strange things, but it all remained as a simple anecdote. After that age, he no longer stayed in that house, not out of fear, because his cousins grew up. They went out with friends, with their partners, and it was getting boring. The times he went to that house afterwards were sporadic, to say hello, but he never stayed there for more than a couple of hours, except for a cousin's birthday or something specific. It was very infrequent, and then nothing else happened. When his grandmother passed away 5 years ago,
She looks like such
he
a
was
sweet
37.
lady too.
Carlos was surprised because she left him the house as an inheritance. Among his 8
Fuck, he
cousins,
got the house.
she chose him, and until now, he doesn't know why.
Because they touched him,
The house
wasn't
was
it?
old,
You felt
poorly
bad. He
maintained,
got touched in
and
the
it
bed.
smelled. Therefore, he decided to remodel it a bit to sell it. Now we come to what I told you in the intro. The moldy floorboards, and that trunk that lay open
What's in the
front of him.
trunk?
Since he didn't
What's
know what
in
it
that
contained,
trunk?
he decided to wait until he got home to open it. Inside were letters, newspapers,
she
and various
actually?
notes. The truly horrifying thing was all those photos. Photos and more photos. Like this.
Show us the photos. Alright. Alright, let's look at these one by one, even though they're blurry as motherfucker. I don't see shit on this half. There could be something there, like even there. But this could also be someone's shadow from taking the photo. But other than that, I don't see anything else in this photo, if I'm to look at it. But if there's 92 ghosts apparently, then there should be a bunch of shit we see.
Do you notice anything in them?
Okay, this one. I got nothing for this one. This one we've got again.
he showed them to his mother, she told him something that his grandmother Carmen had taken to her grave. You see, when he sees the photos of the old version of the house, they brought back memories immediately. Because of course, this house changed its look and architecture many times during Carmen's life there. It was then that Carlos's mother told him something that made his blood run cold. She told him that when she was little, her mother Carmen would have gatherings with a group of friends. They smoked and read in different rooms of this huge house. Back then, she believed that her mother had some kind of book club. At least that's what she told her. However, Carlos's mother remembers that she spent much of her childhood at her aunt's house, since Carmen met with her friends at least twice a week.
First, I cut the sound out to have friends with me.
She never explained why her daughter had to go, but she would anyway. Sometimes she had to spend weeks at her aunt's house without receiving a single call from her mom. This happened when Carlos's mother was between 9 and 14 years old, so she remembers it very well. She recalls the wax of the candles stuck to the cold ceramic floor.
She was not.
Sometimes she found used candles on shelves and on all kinds of furniture. They are for praying, said Carmen.
How far back do I need to go?
But now that her daughter sees these photos, she fervently believes that the reason was something else. They spent all that afternoon reading the letters that were inside the trunk. Some of them were indeed letters, but there were...
Hang on.
Do you notice anything in them?
Yeah, I think it's about here. There's no fucking way, bro.
When he showed them to his mother, she told him something that his grandmother Carmen had taken to her grave. You see, when he sees the photos of the old version of the house, they brought back memories immediately. Because of course, this house changed its look and architecture many times during Carmen's life there. It was then that Carlos's mother told him something that made his blood run cold. She told him that when she was little, her mother Carmen would have gatherings with a group of friends. They smoked and read in different rooms of this huge house. Back then, she believed that her mother had some kind of book club. At least that's what she told her. However, Carlos's mother remembers that she spent much of her childhood at her aunt's house, since Carmen met with her friends at least twice a week, and she could not be present. She never explained why her daughter had to go, but she would anyway.
Yo, Grandma was fucking murdering them all. That's why she got 92 friends.
Without receiving a single call from her mom. This happened when Carlos's mother was between 9 and 14 years old, so she remembers it very well. She recalls the wax of the candles stuck to the cold ceramic floor. Sometimes she found used candles on shelves
say hi.
and on all kinds of furniture.
Good girl.
They are for praying, said Carmen.
Yeah.
But now that her daughter sees these photos, she
kiss.
fervently believes that the reason was something else. They spent all that afternoon reading the letters that were inside the trunk. Some of them were indeed letters, but there were other papers that described 92 people who are called remnants.
Remnants? What the fuck? Nah, she killed him. She for sure killed him. Wait, what's wrong?
The tall
You're in a
woman,
very loving
said one
mood
of those
tonight.
papers. The tall woman is a periodic remnant. Disproportionate being that usually appears with long legs.
She a giraffe. I shouldn't
The
joke.
priest, a rare remnant. He's a being with a blurry face, bald, and wears monk-like clothes from the 1400s.
What the fuck?
The Thing, very rare remnant.
Bro, what?
The Thing is an amorphous being, not a person. Sometimes it appears with limbs, and sometimes it doesn't. It usually disappears with the photos.
What the
and
fuck?
so on. Carlos tells us that each one of those 92 spectra has a complete description, not only of appearance, but also of the behavior they had in each of these sessions.
Yo, she was chilling with him. She didn't give a fuck. She was absolutely chilling. That's mad.
Something quite shocking to reflect on while you see these images. Carlos said he spent 2 days putting the photos together.
Did you hear that? She just banged her head
to
on
try
my
to
desk.
make a correlation. Apparently, there aren't photos of all 92, but there is of a large amount of them. What is going on here? What was the grandmother doing in those sessions with her friends? Carlos tells us that he believes,
you reckon?
as much as it hurts him, that his grandmother was a witch. A real witch. That nice and smiling
She
face
fucking hit it though. She
kept
looks like a friendly
unimaginable
grandma.
horrors underneath.
She dead ass just looks like a chill grandma. She brought back the
Our
whole
subscriber
coven.
also tells me that he feels extremely terrified, since he believes that all the things he experienced as a child can be associated with one of these photos. That the leg he...
That's fucking mad. Maybe the people that she hated, so she brought them back. Like, fuck you, you can fucking deal with me now. You know what I mean? Like, hang on, there's a part 2? The fuck? Bro.
From strange beings standing on clouds, glitches in reality captured live and direct, to the videos of the first positions of the collection that I know will leave you doubting.
She's just
until you
fucking
can't
eating
handle
cunt.
it
Why are you
anymore.
recording her?
Because my name is Leonor
What the
Clay, and this is The Darkest Secret. Today we
Oh
present
shit, really?
10
Maybe she
extreme
was
horror
lonely, she just
videos
wanted a friend.
that will convince you that the
It's gonna be the
paranormal
last video from this lady,
exists.
because fucking hell.
Number 10.
Let me just speed her up.
At first glance, this image seems to be of 2 researchers in Antarctica, right? With a bag of implements on the other side. Well, this is not snow. This is a cloud. It was during a commercial flight that a passenger looking to the right noticed these mysterious and enormous shapes in the clouds. Something that I have never seen. And if you have ever flown, you will know how strange these shapes are.
Not actually clouds, looks like that joins to the fucking ground. I mean, that one just looks dumb anyway, so we're gonna skip it, because fuck. We want brain cells, people. We need our brain.
During his night shift rounds as a security guard, he started recording because he thought he heard strange noises. He had already told his friends and co-workers that odd things happened at night.
Hazel, you know
and
not to go
this
in
was
there, I
intended to
know.
be video evidence.
You know not to go
He
in that
recorded
room.
without thinking that he would really capture something paranormal. Consider that in this footage he was alone. It was this dog, his faithful companion, the only one who kept him company. Let's see if you can figure out for yourself what happened here.
Invierno lo congelado. Bueno, Satán. Otro volador.
You're scared of being alone to become a security guard, eh? My brother's a security guard, and the fucking stories he tells me, like... There's some places where they've just said no. Like, people have called them to go, hey, we need you to patrol this, and they've gone, nah. Because of the stories they've heard, they've gone, nah. We won't go there alone. They only pick places where the guards can go alone with it being safe. You're very needy tonight, Hazel. What's wrong? Alright, your dad's home soon. Yeah, dad's home soon.
Más tarde voy a firmar bien allá.
Hey. Anyway, oh no. So what's he recording? I've missed half of this.
Firulai.
Oh, this is the dog. Can he keep going to the left so we can see if there's a person? Yes, we saw a shadow, but if he keeps going to the left, we can just see if there's a person there. Oh no, because his shadow's there. What the fuck? If his shadow's there,
did you capture it?
Then how the fuck does that go
a
there?
mysterious shadow passes quickly near him at the moment just when he was standing next to one of the machines. Also, if you notice, the camera seems to fail just before
I'm
that
so
shadow
confused,
appeared,
Hazel.
as if something had interfered with its operation.
What do you think?
First, I
You gonna go
thought,
fuck?
simple. It's the
What?
same shadow as the
Yes,
dog's.
I know. Dad
But
will be
looking
home
closer,
soon.
we can see that that shadow is much larger and more robust. Plus,
I'm fucking
the
confused.
dog already had his shadow and was completely on the opposite side. What the heck happened here then? Is this a simple game of shadows? Or could it be something beyond natural? Leave me your opinions in the comment box.
Oh, the dog's just like, what we doing? That hurts my brain, man.
What you will learn about in this position corresponds to a clip captured live and direct. You know how much I like these recordings because falsifying them becomes entirely difficult, if not possible. Observe.
Okay, there's a guy in the background, yes. Yeah, but is he not... Okay, if I may, I'm not falsifying it, but you see him here, right? Looks like he's in blue. Right? Blue clothes. The door itself is blue. So, clearly this camera isn't high quality because you can see that the image looks a bit rough.
Seemed to disappear completely.
But it looks like...
How is this explained?
Just because of his blue uniform and the quality of the photo, he just blends in with the door, and then obviously fucking disappears.
Or subsequent edits that could
I don't see this as a fucking invisible man. It is a normal guy walking through a fucking door.
Or is there something much more frightening hidden behind this recording? Let me know what you think.
Huh?
Number 7.
Just my opinion. Just my opinion.
In position number 7 is another one of those that came to me during the Christmas season. If you saw my previous video of paranormal recordings
Holiday
captured at
spirit,
Christmas,
please
you know
just
that during these
fucking show, thank you. Sorry, lady, but I'm fucking here for one video. Oh. Opening your presents early.
Next to 3 elf dolls, typical of the season. However, during the night, one of them begins to move on its own. The change of position and advancement of the dolls occurs without anyone being nearby, and there are no signs of drafts or obvious manipulation. A footage that inevitably leads us to speculate. Is it a simple trick, or could there be something more behind it, such as inexplicable energies associated with these figures? The movement of this elf is as fascinating as it is alarming, since no matter how much you want to find some logical explanation, everything points more towards a manifestation of the supernatural type. What do you believe? Are we looking at a Christmas hoax, or something much stranger? Leave me your opinion in the comment box. Number 6. The following footage comes from Mexico, specifically from a hotel
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
In the recording published on the official website of the establishment, a young employee who usually shares fragments of her daily life inside the premises, one day captured something unusual and inexplicable from the outside of the hotel with her camera.
Okay.
Aquí más cerquita. Aquí más cerquita. Sí, miren, ahí se ve, se alcanza a ver una cara, unos ojos.
It looks like the boy from that fucking show, The Grudge or some shit. What's it called?
Vamos subiendo las escaleras porque
I got a hotel and that's the bed. I get.
aquí ya no se ve nada, a lo mejor por el reflejo de la luz. Y vamos a ver en la habitación. Aquí está la cama, porque esta es una habitación pequeña. Aquí pues no se ve nada. Y aquí está la tele, donde estábamos. Donde se supone que se veía, pero no se ve nada.
It's not even a fucking kitchenette. Fuck, that'd be rough to sleep in.
As you can see in the video, on the second floor of one of the rooms,
I don't know,
a
man.
face seems
Looks
to be
like
peeking
shit.
out from inside.
No offense.
But when she arrived there to check,
Looks like a fucking
she found
doll head. I'm
absolutely
sorry,
nothing.
but
However, the most disturbing of all occurs at the end. Reserve her identity tells us that the security cameras captured the specter.
the
of
fucking
some
door
children
closed
in
and
the
she
middle of
shit
the night,
herself.
while the
That's all that
establishment
happened.
was completely closed.
The fucking door closed.
We need paranormal videos. If you know or have paranormal videos like this that you would like me to see, do not hesitate to send them to the email that you now see. In the image, you can see 2 small, semi-transparent figures walking towards the center of the room. They remain still for a moment and then run away. But the bizarreness doesn't end there, and if you look closely, that apparent white curtain seems to move in a particular way, especially when the children materialize. Before, it didn't move with that force.
They go out to work.
This
Oh, that's right, I'm dead. Hang on.
During the early hours of the morning.
Let me go home.
Which makes this recording even more difficult to explain. What were those figures? The subscriber says it is completely impossible for there to be children here at this hour. Number 4. This is one of those experiences that can leave an indelible mark on your life due to how unusual and even unsettling it can be. The video was recorded during the early hours of the morning by a security camera in a store in Yemen. According to the owner, he was visited by a mysterious, strange woman who behaved oddly and who also had sheep hooves.
What the fuck? What?
What is most striking about this figure is its physical appearance. Their extremely pale skin evokes the image of someone seriously ill or even dead.
If she's the angel of death, she would not approach him that way. I'm sorry?
It's an obvious case of supernatural entity taking human form. People also reinforce the theory of the owner of the enclosure. Many find that her feet, instead of being normal, would appear to be hooves. A scene so disconcerting that it is not difficult to imagine
her
the
feet
emotional
look
impact
like
on the
feet,
store owner.
like she's wearing
How would you
boots.
act if you faced
That's
a
not
similar
fucking
situation?
hooves.
Would you ignore her, thinking she's a crazy woman? Or would it leave you
Am I
with
right
a
to think
strange
that? She looks like
sensation
she's just
that
wearing
would
shoes.
last all day? Comment below. Number 3.
But then she goes, I need money. If you're an angel of death, wouldn't you just fucking not need shit? I'm so confused.
3 years ago, a South Korean series achieved the unexpected, becoming a global phenomenon. I'm referring to Squid Game, a series that exploded on Netflix.
I can't believe this show Squid Game is actually based off a real thing that actually happened.
Viewers around the world, becoming the most viewed fiction on that platform. A resounding success that led many to wonder about the elements that inspired its author to create this might not have been entirely original, but rather it could have been inspired by real life.
Yeah, I've seen these photos before. I don't know how true all this is though, but it's crazy how similar it is.
These photos have circulated on the internet, especially on TikTok, to demonstrate that the Squid Games were apparently real and occurred a long time ago. However, these images could be made with AI. You already know
This could have just been like an old fucking retreat, like a massive kids fucking playground.
May be attractive. They might as well be made with AI. However, investigating a little more on the internet, there are others. This time, real, not generated with AI. Additional photos, which seem to suggest that in fact, something similar to the Squid Game was made in real life. All these photos correspond to part of the rooms that housed an institution known as Brothers Home, a private organization that during the 70s and 80s opened its doors as a social assistance center where food, education, and protection for people who were homeless. However, the reality was quite far from that. In the years leading up to the 1988 Seoul Olympics, the dictatorial regime ruling South Korea at the time promoted a plan to clean the streets of homeless people, thus opening social welfare facilities.
Yeah, literally.
Such as Brothers Home. However, those who managed to get out of there alive described these places as true concentration camps. There, they took thousands of people, including homeless people, orphan children, student protesters, opponents of the regime, and even drunk people who were found wandering the streets. All were subjected to forced labor, physical and psychological abuse, experiments that involved group competitions, something very similar to what is shown in the Netflix series. Later investigations indicated that Brothers Home made money by releasing children for adoption abroad. But perhaps the most chilling fact is that this center named its inhabitants with numbers, which were placed on uniformed garments that everyone had to wear in order to differentiate them. Does this information sound familiar to you? Records indicated that the place housed up to 4,355 people, even though its capacity was assigned for 500. However, most of those responsible did not face legal consequences, so for decades the victims of Brothers Home have fought to get the guilty punished. A dark chapter of the Asian country, which due to the success of the series, finally sees the light today. Did you know anything about this? Comment below. Number 2.
Hey, honestly.
This is a case where we find the story of a man who from one day to the next began receiving boxes with strange objects sent by someone he had known for years.
Free gifts,
Apparently,
fuck yeah.
this person practiced some type of magic and
Oh
sent him
shit,
these artifacts.
never mind, I'm
Over
good.
time, after accumulating a collection of disturbing dolls and objects that seemed to be cursed, terrifying things began to happen in his home. One day, his dog began acting abnormally, curling up next to him while inexplicable sounds were heard. Worried, he decided to record what was happening and managed to capture this.
Fucking
My
Hazel.
dog's freaking out. I keep hearing like knocking at my door. I look out the window. There's nothing. See what I mean?
I'd be like, oh, you can't chase a bitch down. I mean, they're living downstairs. He's got a fucking cellar. They're just downstairs, bro. They're living down there. They want you to come through. Wait, it's okay. Your dad will be home soon. I know.
Them things in that damn cabinet.
Like an hour before my partner comes home from work. The hour before he comes home from work, the dog loses her fucking mind. Until he comes home, then she's
I gotta
happy.
get rid of these damn things. There's somebody that's gonna take one of them. I don't know which one, but
one of them, I'd be like, can't
When he
take them
opens
all.
the door, he finds no one. However, soon after, the paranormal events
What?
inside
Come
the
here.
house intensify. Convinced that the objects he had received are responsible, he tries to get rid of them.
What's the time
The
now?
problem is that he doesn't know which one of
He'll
them is
be
the
here
cause.
literally any
So he
second.
installs a camera in front
Now
of the
is the
collection
time he
to
normally
discover
comes
the
home.
truth.
So he'll
What
be
he
here
records
any
shortly
second.
after is shocking.
Oh, she got dolls. Fuck that. That's a lot of dolls, bro. You got Annabelle up in that house for sure.
what was that?
Gravity. She's a fucking bitch.
Bro. The whole camera just flew off the shelf.
The camera seems to move on its own and ends up
Look at all
falling
the
off the
fucking
shelf.
dolls
That
he's
same
got.
night, he
And he's
captures
worried
something
about
even
fucking
more
voodoo dolls
disconcerting.
getting sent to him. Just add them to the pile. Oh, and you got... Is that a fucking rat? What is that? Bro, where's the rest of your dog? Get fucked. How do you fake... Honestly, I don't know how you'd fake that.
And something more
That's mad.
disconcerting. An object moves on its own, scaring the dog that was nearby. Everything indicates that when he opened the door, he could have let something inside his house. Could this be evidence of a real ghost? The truth is that this story leaves us with more questions than answers. Are these objects really cursed? Or is it all a series of disturbing coincidences? If anything is clear, it is that there are unknown forces that, at least in this case, have managed to alter the tranquility
That
of
dog
home.
shit
Perhaps
himself,
it is a
bro.
reminder that there are things that should not be invited through our doors. Number 1. We conclude this collection with what would be one more post on TikTok of the girl you see on the screen. The young woman was enjoying her snack after leaving classes when suddenly something
watching
completely
this?
disconcerting happened behind her. Observe.
Okay, a lady in a mask. I'm so confused. Like, yeah, it's an ugly fucking mask. I know he's coming.
As soon as that person sits behind her,
Sweet
she turns her
child,
head,
I know you
revealing a
missed your dad.
completely
He is coming.
disfigured face. as if she were wearing a mask or something similar.
She's
Is it
fucking giving me
actually
attitude now.
The young woman assures that the intention was only to record herself. There
Yo,
was
Az, what's going on?
attempt at manipulation or intervention in the image.
Looks like she's just wearing a fucking mask.
Do you think this young woman was sitting next to an unknown entity?
You can even see it's a fucking mask though, like the fucking face.
Because this video has come.
Like. Excuse me, come here. Come here. Do to them what you just did to me. You just gave me a big growl. Yeah, I know. Every day before your dad comes home, you hassle me. I can't make him drive any faster. Usually I just let her outside now before he comes home, but I'm fucking streaming, so. No, but you can see it, like the eyebrows and shit. This is like a shitty face mask that she's bought.
Come to
I don't know, maybe they're self-conscious, I don't fucking know.
And this was the darkest secret.
Is it actually? Yeah, that fucking makes sense, eh? Okay, I can't watch another one of her videos though, because her voice. No offense. Nothing against you. You have a great channel. I'm subscribed for a reason, but for today, that's enough. I think that's the same one, isn't it? We have Mr. Bolin, but see, that looks fucking sick. The sound of that one looks sick. Oh. You hear something? What do you hear? Yeah, that's him. Oi, he's home. Go on. Go. Hazel, go. He's home. I can hear the car door. No, she's just gonna fucking glare at me. I'm gonna fucking die one day. I want the ones with the actual footage.
Today's
though,
story is about one of the most
sick
haunted
last ones I looked
rooms
at
in
that
the
had the
world,
footage.
and what happens
Except
when
for
you go inside it.
fucking 92.
Now, this
As you
particular
missed
account
today,
is from
we
200
had
years
this
ago,
bitch right. Hang on,
but
let
the
me
legend
pause this. We had a video where it was fucking grandma living with like 92 ghosts because she had like fucking done a bunch of rituals and kicked her grandkids out, and there were like all these ghosts in their house and shit. Like, it's fucking mental. Absolutely mental.
of what goes on inside of that room is still very much alive today. However, before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place.
Yeah, the
because that's all we do,
credit.
and we upload once a week.
We'll watch Mel and Mr. Bolin because I like his videos.
Bathroom and replace their toothpaste with Novocaine.
And then I might look up for those ones that have the fucking actual footage because they were sick.
Late one evening in 1840,
the ones with the footage are good.
A 30-year-old British nobleman named Sir Robert Warboys
I heard the
stood
car
next
doors.
to 5
I
of his
know he's
closest
home.
friends on the front porch of a townhome in one of the fanciest neighborhoods in London, England. The address of this townhome was 50 Berkeley Square, and it was one of dozens of these beautiful brick and marble townhomes.
Why do I know that
surrounded
name,
this big
Berkeley
garden.
Square?
The whole square had been built about 100 years earlier, and since then it had become one of the most fashionable places for the rich and famous.
That's Paige
to
when
call
she's
home.
older.
However, Robert and his friends had not come here to rub
Fucking hell.
shoulders with important people. Instead, Robert had come here to win a bet. So Robert actually was a nobleman. He was like this proper guy, at least on paper. But in reality, at least to his friends,
At least his
he
voice
had
is
a
easier to
total
listen
wild
to.
streak.
This doesn't
he
bother me.
loved taking on dares. Basically, anytime anybody
Excuse me.
challenged him to do something,
Yeah,
he
say
would
hello
do
again.
it, especially if there was money on the line. But it wasn't really about the money. It wasn't
Thank
about
God he clarified
winning
it was
money by
London.
doing these different things.
to get it
He
was
just
London,
loved
Brazil.
the challenge. He loved the thrill of taking chances. So that night, on the front porch of this townhome, Robert turned and knocked on the front door.
What?
And then as soon as he did, he turned
What?
back and looked at his friends and grinned at them.
Go
And
find
he
a
saw
toy.
some of them looked really excited and some looked pretty nervous, but to Robert, he was purely happy about how
What's this
things
one
were
about
going
again?
so
I've already
far.
forgotten.
Because he
Ah,
knew,
well.
come tomorrow when this whole thing was done and he had won his bet, he would have a great story to tell. A few seconds later, the front door of the townhome swung open and this middle-aged man stepped outside. His name was Charles Benson, and while Robert and Charles did know each other, they were not close friends. They actually only knew each other because they both were members of the same exclusive gentlemen's club in London. Plus, pretty much everybody in London had at least heard of Charles because of all the rumors swirling around about what went on inside of his townhome. Even though Robert had told Charles that on this night he and his buddies were coming to his townhome for this
Fuck's
bet,
sake,
even
Ed.
though he had clearly told him, Charles still seemed very surprised to see Robert standing
Wait,
there.
there's a guy at my work
Robert
who
nonetheless was
fucking
like, "Hey, Charles,
constantly
how are
has
you? You know,
hickeys
I'm
on
here for
his
the bet."
neck that you
And
can
Charles
see.
basically
I'm
didn't
like,
react.
bro,
He just
I don't
stared
think
at
the
Robert
elderly
with
need
this
to
very
know
concerned
that
look on his
you're getting
face
attention at
and just
home,
said,
bro. Like,
"Are you
tell her to
sure
chill
you
out.
really want to do this?"
Whenever he comes to work, he's got like a
Robert
new
knew what
one.
he was
I'm like,
referencing,
cunt,
just kinda looked
seriously,
down at the
like,
pistol on his
fuck.
hip and said, "Yeah, I'm sure." A few minutes later, Robert and his 5 friends were inside of Charles' townhome in the dining room, sitting around a table, while Charles had gone upstairs to get something. And as they sat there, Robert kind of looked around the room at his friends, and he could tell they were clearly more nervous about this than he was. And so he tried to, keep the mood light by making some jokes and kind of downplaying what he was about to do, but it was like no matter what he did, he could just tell his friends were very uneasy about what was going to happen here. And then a moment later, they heard the sound of Charles coming down the stairs. And Charles, he came in the kitchen, still with a very serious look on his face. And he walked up to them, and he reached in his pocket, and he pulled out this old iron key, and he placed it in the middle of the table. And as soon as he did that, the room went completely silent, and everybody just stared at this key. And then Charles eventually broke the silence and explained to the group that over the last 10 years of living in this townhome, he had only used that key maybe 2 or 3 times total. And when the key was not in use, Charles said he actually hid the key just to make sure it
No,
never
you're
wound
not
up
in
the
charge,
wrong hands.
Missy. I know
But
you want
now,
to be, but you're
again,
not
with
in
that
charge.
somber look on his face, Charles looked over at Robert and said, "If you're really sure about this, the key is yours to take." And Robert, with no hesitation, reached out and snatched the key, showing his friends and showing Charles that he was not about to get cold feet. A couple of minutes later, all the men stood up from the dining room table, and then Charles led the group up the thin, narrow, creaky staircase to the second floor. And when they got to the second floor, Charles led them down this narrow hallway that came to a stop in front of this closed door. At this point, all 7 men were kind of crowded together right in front of this door. But it was obvious that even though Charles lived in this townhome, he was sort of hesitant to get even close to this door. Like he really didn't want to be anywhere near it. Also, all of Robert's friends were sort of reacting the same way too. I mean, they were the ones that actually dared Robert to do this in the first place. But now that they were actually here, about to go through with it, they were looking at Robert like he was totally insane. And also they were kind of hoping that, maybe he would just back out and they could just leave. But Robert did not seem remotely like he was about to back out. He had a very determined look on his face, and as everybody else was kind of cowering away from this door, Robert stepped up, reached into his pocket, pulled out that iron key, and put it into the lock. And as he began to turn the lock, everybody else took steps farther away from him. And then he pulled open the door, and as he did, everybody gasped, and Robert even took a step backwards. But when Robert actually looked through the now open doorway, he just laughed because it was just a normal bedroom. It was filled with all this old but very expensive looking furniture. On one side of the room was this big wooden dresser with a huge round mirror above it. And then on the opposite side of the room was this big 4-poster bed. And right above this bed, dangling down from the ceiling, was this red ribbon. Now, Robert knew that in a rich nobleman's house, there were ribbons like this one that are known as bell pulls. A nobleman could pull on that lever, and it was connected to a pulley system that rang a bell down in the servants' quarters. And when the servant heard that bell, they would see what room it was coming from, and they would go up to the room to see what the nobleman needed. And so after taking in the sight of this bedroom, Robert took a confident step into the room. And as soon as he did, Charles reached out and grabbed him by the wrist and said, "Hey, Robert, this is your last chance to change your mind. Are you sure you want to go through with this?" And Robert kind of looked back at his friends and smiled and said, "I'm sure. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning once I've won the bet." Then Robert released Charles's grip on his wrist, walked into the room, turned, shut, and locked the door. At this moment, Robert's friends didn't really know what to do. They were still sort of shocked that Robert was actually going through with this. I mean, even by his standards, this felt particularly reckless. They also felt kind of guilty. I mean, they were the ones who ultimately put him up to this. So, if Robert got hurt, which in theory could actually happen here, it would be partially their fault. And so Robert's friends turned to Charles to see what he was thinking. And Charles had this very grave, resigned expression on his face. And he just told them, "I have one more thing to show you before we go to bed." So Robert's friends followed Charles back down the hallway, down the stairs, past the dining room, towards the very back of the townhome. And when they got there, they found there was sort of like a studio apartment area back there. There was a kitchen area, a laundry area, and there were several beds. Charles explained this was where his servants lived and worked, but he had given them all the night off because he knew it was possible that Robert and his friends would be here for this bet and they would need a place to stay. Charles pointed to a space right above the beds where there was this row of all these bells in a horizontal line. Each of these bells were connected to various bell pulls throughout the house, and he pointed to one particular bell and told them that that was the one that was connected to the bell pull in the room Robert was staying in tonight. And so he said it was their job tonight to constantly monitor that bell all night. So somebody had to be awake all night listening to that bell, because heaven forbid if Robert pulls that bell, that was going to be the signal that something bad had happened in that room. And so their job was basically to be on guard all night to potentially run up and rescue Robert if he needed it. Last year, we launched our very first graphic novel, and it went great. I mean, it made the New York Times bestseller list, so thank you all so much for making that. I love it. Check it out. Your nightmares are waiting. Around 3 hours later, all of Robert's friends were sitting on the floor in the servants' quarters playing blackjack. It was almost midnight, and all of them were exhausted, but they were too on edge to sleep. They were so focused on this bell, and they were so worried about Robert and, wondering if he was really okay up there. And they also had become convinced that, maybe the bell would ring and they wouldn't hear it if they were making too much noise. And so they had made this decision to silently play blackjack and just focus exclusively on this bell. But it had
I feel
really
like
created
every
a lot
book
of
that
extra
comes
tension
out
in
is
the room.
automatically
They're
just
basically
made a
all
New York
just
Times
staring at the
bestseller.
bell, dealing one
Like
hand
it's
after
fucking
another,
mental.
paranoid it would go
Excuse
off,
me.
and wondering what would even happen
enough
if
your
it did.
attitude,
So
Missy.
hand after hand,
No,
the
you're not
friends
in
are playing
charge.
blackjack, anxiously watching this
You've been
bell
pushing the
being
boundary a
completely
lot lately,
silent.
Missy.
And then suddenly they hear this sound that makes them all jump. But it wasn't
I had to be
the
a lot
bell.
more strict with
It
her,
was
and
a
I feel bad,
blood-curdling
but she's been
scream
really pushing the
coming from
fucking limits
upstairs.
lately.
And for a moment, the
So I had
friends
to
just sat
remind
there
her
in
she's in
shock.
charge.
And then they got up and began running out of the servants' quarters to see what was going on. And as they did, Robert's bell began ringing furiously, so loud it hurt their ears. And so they charge out of the servants' quarters and literally bump into Charles, who also is coming to figure out what's going on. And as a group, they begin running up the stairs to the second floor. And all the while, the bell is ringing furiously. There's screams coming from Robert's bedroom. And by the time they got to the second floor, suddenly everything went silent. The ringing stopped, the screaming stopped. They're in the second floor in that hallway, and it's just deadly
looks like a
silent.
scab
And
or
up ahead of
something,
them
hey.
is that closed door. And so Charles and the group, they begin walking down the hall, having no idea what to expect. And
What a
right as
hurry.
they're about to reach the door, they hear this loud bang sound. And then silence again. Seconds later, Robert's friends were at that door, pounding on it, screaming for Robert, come open the door, because Robert was the only one with the key. But Robert wasn't making any noise. The room was still totally silent. And so eventually the friends began kicking on this door to try to break it down. All the while, Charles is just kind of standing back in the hallway, watching this horrible thing unfold. And then finally, the friends manage to literally kick the door in. I mean, it's a 100-year-old house. The door gets kicked in, and the friends stumble into the room, and they look over towards the bedroom, and they all just freeze in shock. When Charles bought this townhome 10 years earlier,
Honestly,
it came
Ed,
with a very dark backstory. The previous owner had apparently kept his violent and psychotic brother locked up inside of this second floor bedroom where Robert was. And after this brother died inside of this room, all these strange and frightening things began happening inside of this room. People began hearing these awful wailing sounds coming out of this room when nobody was in there, and then they'd go into the room and the wailing would stop, but furniture had been moved all around the room, even though, again, no one had been in there to do that. And then also, people began seeing this sort of amorphous gray figure sort of moving around inside of that room, especially at night, kind of slinking up against the wall and across the floor. And even though nobody had any idea what it was, it just felt like it was evil. And so they began calling it the nameless thing, and they referred to it as the physical manifestation of evil. However, not everybody believed this story. In fact, one person who absolutely did not believe the story was Robert Warboys. He thought this was just a tall tale designed to scare people. And so when his friends dared him to spend one night inside of that bedroom where supposedly the nameless thing lived, He happily accepted, because to him, it didn't seem risky at all. You know, spending one night in the haunted room was no big deal, because it's not actually haunted. He'd be fine. And anyways, it would make for a great story to tell down at the Gentleman's Club. Unfortunately though, the night in that bedroom did not go as Robert hoped. When Robert's friends burst through the bedroom door and looked inside, the first thing they noticed was the bell pull. The ribbon from the ceiling had been yanked out of the ceiling, and Robert's pistol was on the ground next to the bed. And then on the other side of the room, there was a very obvious bullet hole in the wall. And so that was the loud bang sound they heard as they were coming down the hall.
I don't know what to make of that comment.
And then there was Robert. Robert was laying on the bed, and he was totally rigid, and he actually was still clutching the red ribbon from the bell pull. And as they stared at him, they saw his eyes were wide open and bloodshot, and his lips were kind of pulled back in this horrible grimace with his teeth exposed. And for a second, his friends thought Robert must be having a seizure of some kind. That's why he was so tight on the bed like that. And so they ran to him, trying to snap him out of it. But as soon as they touched him, they realized that the reason he was rigid was not because of a seizure. It was because Robert was dead. That night, Charles would call the local coroner, who would come by and take Robert's body, and also he would open up an official inquest into Robert's death to figure out what had happened to him. And the verdict of this inquest was that Robert had died from massive heart failure caused by unknown circumstances. But to Charles and all of Robert's friends who were there that night and actually saw Robert in the room, it seemed plainly obvious that what had happened here was Robert had come in contact with the so-called nameless thing in that room, and it literally scared him to death. In the nearly 200 years since Robert's death, 50 Berkeley Square has had many different owners, and virtually all of them have reported either seeing, feeling, or hearing some sort of malevolent ghostly presence inside of that second floor bedroom. To this day, that particular bedroom, where the nameless thing apparently resides, is considered one of the most haunted places in the entire world. In case you haven't heard yet, our newest graphic novel, Mr. Ballen Presents Where Nightmares Live, is available for pre-order right now. It contains another 9 heart-stopping, strange, dark, and mysterious stories, all based on real events. This...
Sorry, my partner just found my pot. I left it on the stove. Yeah. Alright, I want to see if there's... Sorry, I can hear him pitching. I'm sorry. Horror videos. What I want with footage. With real footage. Oh, fuck. This can't be fucking real. Like, look at this bent over bitch. Not to mention that one looks even fucking worse. Ah, look at this one! I love it. It's on her fucking shoulders. There's no way that's real. There's no way that's fucking... They think that's gonna be real. What the fuck? Most of them just don't even look fucking real. Why is there a Kitchen Nightmares video in the middle of this? How about real footage? I don't know, from hauntings? I don't know. I don't know what to search to what would fucking come up. Even that looks fucking fake, this one here. Oh, God. That's actually meant to be pretty scary, the Sally house. I don't know how truly scary it is. The first one looks nice. I'll go back. I don't know if I picked the first one or not, but...
Get the f*** out! Get the f*** out! Get the f*** out! Let's go! Tiberius! Lucy!
He's trying to get the whole fucking
JJ Retro,
herd
an
out.
urban exploration channel, ventures into an abandoned house at the edge of an English village late at night. He's visibly nervous just standing at the entrance of the eerie location.
I'm exploring somewhere like this because we're in the middle of nowhere, on the outskirts of Slinfold, at this rather creepy house. And there's a sort of haunted feel to it.
This is creepy. This is probably the creepiest building we've done so far in our urban exploring career. Ooh.
Why do you call it a career?
What's that noise?
It's quite dark upstairs.
You could see full on up his fucking nostril then.
Wow. It's around. No.
Hello? And that was the haunted house here in Slinfold, and we're...
Since part of the chair is obscured by the doorway, it's possible that someone off camera was making it move. Otherwise, this place is undoubtedly haunted.
From 2 seconds of a video, are you shitting me?
TikTok user Yosef was at home when something bright caught his eye. He rushed to his balcony and captured this incredible footage.
Oh, I hate the ones in the sky. Like...
A bright object moves through a massive cloud, revealing a tiny ball of light floating through the sky. This small, illuminated object... According to Steve, this area is notorious as the location where a person who was taking lives in the 1950s concealed the bodies. It's believed that this individual might have resided in the nearby abandoned house, hidden deep within the woods. This information was published by Steve Ronan in April 2020. Upon exploring, the crew quickly discovers some unsettling items, including an assortment of bird skulls. Later, they come across another piece of animal anatomy. A spine. What kind of animal does it belong to, and why is it here?
Can we though appreciate how all the bird heads are nicely aligned in a circle?
Adding to the eeriness, they find small figurines, one resembling a skeleton and another that looks like Gollum. Is this truly the house of the 1950s
oh, you put
maniac?
a ring on it so you can be like my
Why were
precious.
all these possessions left behind, and what's with the bird skull trophies? It's a place I'd stay far away.
That's creepy. So just birds, huh? Bird skulls, or maybe mouse skulls?
No, I think it's like a
I think it's
rodent.
bird.
Yeah.
Like a family of rodents, but what them right here like this, I have no idea.
Is that it?
Maddie on
What the
TikTok
fuck?
admitted
There's
to a
such short
massive
videos.
mistake, playing with a Ouija board without properly ending the session. Since then, he's been dealing with relentless hauntings in his home for 4 years. He documents these bone-chilling experiences to avoid
Hey, they
feeling
keep it
crazy.
updated. That's good.
I don't know what the f***'s going on with these dogs,
Oh, look at the
bro.
dog.
They're scared of some... Yo. I'm telling you, bro. That's the second time I heard those f***ing bells, bro. The second time. The second time. I'm home all
I've seen this house
alone,
before,
bro.
actually.
Nobody
we have
is
on this
home.
channel a few times.
Nobody.
This house always
No
has shit
one is
going
home.
on. But last time I saw this house, it wasn't with this family.
Nobody is
I know
home.
it was different.
And those
It was a
f***ing
young family
bells.
that had young kids. It wasn't
What's
this
wrong,
lady.
Petey? What's
But I've
wrong? What do you
definitely
see?
seen a video in this exact
You see
same
something?
house.
You see something
Like I
over
know
here?
I have. So they must have
I'm
changed
telling
ownership,
you,
but that was years ago. That was when I was first
those
streaming.
bells, I
Crazy
heard
that I
them
remember, but I
motherfuckers
definitely
twice.
know this house. And they had issues too.
What the f*** is going on? Petey!
The dog doesn't care, eh? He's like, what's up, bro?
Petey!
I'll come hang out. But see, the dog's
Petey,
chill.
what's
That's usually
going
a
on?
good sign. If the dog was scared, he wouldn't have gone in there.
The fucking TV turned
You know what
on.
I mean?
Petey, let's go. Go, Petey. Go. Go out. Go out. Go out. Go. Go out. Go out. Go out. Go out. Go out. What the fuck is going on?
Yo, I'll buy the house
What
for a
the
discounted
fuck is going
price. I don't
on?
mind if it's haunted. It's fucking
What
huge.
the fuck is going? It turned off. It turned off. Lucy, Bentley, let's go. Bentley, get out. Let's go. Tiberius, let's go. Get the
The dog
fuck out.
upstairs
Get
is
the
like a fuck
out.
off, bitch.
Get
I don't want to
the
leave.
fuck out. Let's go. Tiberius. Lucy.
I'm waiting for the door to shut, eh?
Charlie, let's go. Come on. Come on, who's home? Come on, who's home? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Come on, T.
Just come back for the dogs in the morning.
Come on. Lucy.
Matty was on high alert when his dogs acted afraid of something in the house.
Oh,
Bells
hey,
rang,
he called
decorative
every
balls flew
fucking
out of a
dog and they
bowl,
were just
and
like,
the TV
fuck
turned
off.
on and off by itself. Matty rushed outside, fearing a paranormal threat. Could these eerie events be linked to the Ouija board? Let me know what you think. Colton and Casey ventured into the dense, dark woods to find an old hunting cabin.
I've seen
A
their
place
videos
so
before. They're
remote
not
that
bad.
reaching it was an ordeal. The cabin had caught their attention due to chilling reports of unexplained phenomena. Whispers echoed in empty rooms. Doors creaked and shut on their own.
These guys are good
and
because they
shadowy
actually,
figures
when
drifted
like a
through the
sound
dim
happens,
spaces.
they actually go to
For
it.
Colton and
They don't
Casey,
just fucking
this
run
was
off.
reason enough to investigate. Once they arrived, the silence felt thick and suffocating. After a brief discussion, they made the risky choice to split up. Colton would scour the area around the cabin, while Casey ventured inside.
What?
It's been kept in pretty good condition, to be fair.
Hello?
God.
I know that did not just open up on its own.
Oh. It looks like it's kind of frozen in time. Like everything in there looks like it's still in good condition. You know what I mean?
There being like another large.
Oh, don't get, yeah, stay back.
I know, you're again, right? Yeah. Motion attacks talking, so you fucking do the second on my death mirror.
That was fast. Where is it?
What?
What?
What? I just heard the REM pod go off. I heard, where is it? It's facing me right.
Apart from the
It's gonna
Texas
get
Massacre
lost in
looking
here,
house,
bro.
it's a decent house. It's a fucking big house. This thing's huge.
Oh my God, dude.
What the was that?
The door just, it closed on its own when I was walking in there. Like there's a door straight back, right to the fucking hallway where the REM pod is, bro.
Like some of them whisper, and it's like, come, they know you're there. Like there's no fucking
Both
way
hear
they
their
don't know you're
device
there.
echoing through the hall, glance at each other and head toward the source. As they approach the room, anticipation prickles their skin. Just as they reach the doorway, an icy gust sweeps through, and with a low, eerie creak, the door slams shut in front of them.
That door right there just closed. I got it on camera, I'm telling you, bro. That. I got it on camera, I'm telling you, bro.
I'm telling you,
That-
bro.
God.
Shadow camera.
Yeah. Dude, there was just like could have been
weird like transition.
Did you see that? I know for a fact. Can you pick that up? There's like the bell or something. It just rang in here.
Why is that one door padlocked?
Hello? Is there anybody here? Is that it right there?
You could have my strawberries and cream.
Did you notice it? When Casey checked each room, he spotted
Oh,
something
yeah, do
lurking
your
behind a
lemon.
door frame. A glimpse of a head. The cam turned back, and a strange
Why is it
brownish
blue?
figure came into sharper focus. Chilling part. Casey had
Really
no
drinking.
idea he might have captured a ghost.
Betsy, fuck
Moments
off.
later, he entered the room where he'd seen the head, but it was gone. What did he capture that night? Who or what was that shadowy figure, and to whom did that terrifying head belong? Only they know the truth. Until then, it's up to you to decide. Was it real, or just an
But
illusion?
it's good, because even after the door closed, they still went in there to see. That's
Sean
why I like
frequently
those
posts
guys.
videos of his
Because they're not
stealth
afraid
camping
to be like,
adventures,
okay,
from
something's
working on his
happening,
camper van to
let's go
camping
see
with
it.
his son. In one video, he spent the night by the ocean. The night was smooth until he went to bed, unaware that his sleep would soon be interrupted.
I just heard something outside.
They're trying to open up his fucking door, you can hear it. That's the sound of the handle. Just jump in the driver's seat. Drive off. That easy. You're in a fucking van. Just jump in the fucking seat. Start the car and go.
Okay, I think they've gone. They literally tried to get in the van. It wasn't just a knocking, they were trying the handle. Let me check outside.
I'd just start the van and fucking run him over, like...
My heart was pounding then. I mean, they were either trying to move me on or trying to break into the van. Either way, not pleasant. I think that if I'd heard them coming in more, I've got a metal pole here. I could have just got out and not done anything. I'm not moving. I'm probably not going to sleep.
At 2 a.m., Sean woke to knocking on his van and someone yanking on the door.
But see,
This
if you're gonna
anxiety-inducing
park on the
moment
side of
kept
the
him
fucking
awake,
road, what are you gonna
listening
expect?
for the lurker outside.
Park in like a
Luckily, the
camping
person
area where
moved
you know
on,
you're gonna be left
but
alone.
the thought of
You
someone
literally
trying to
saw
enter
a
your van
fucking
in the
bus
middle of the
drive
night is
directly
chilling,
next
as
to
their
him.
intentions could be sinister.
Of course there's gonna be someone who's gonna check out your van. It's in the fucking open where you can be seen.
Roland and Omar embarked on a chilling expedition to explore America's most haunted locations, capturing numerous unsettling moments. We delve into 3 spine-tingling episodes.
Not
first
this guy, but the
unfolds
other
in a
guy,
haunted
Omar.
house's
I've seen
living
his
room at
videos
11
too.
p.m., where an ancient
he
clock,
also
a
goes
silent
into
witness to
places.
spectral occurrences, had been
He's
frozen
pretty
in
good.
time for over a decade.
If there is a spirit here that is shaking this clock, let me know. And why are you messing with my clock? Let me know that you are here. Show me some kind of sign. Do something. Did you just make the clock move?
The heavy, looks like a heavy clock.
I just... What was that? Alright, that clock just literally moved. Did you just make the clock move?
Did he like bring something home with him? What the
Show
fuck?
me a sign. Do something. Holy f. Alright, that time, holy sh.
I don't know how you can do that with the clock hands. Like, I'm looking from like the other perspective. I don't know how you can fake that spin with the clock hands.
I know that was not just open. That was shut.
Did this cunt seriously bring a ghost home with him? Dude's gonna have to fucking get his house fucking protected if he's gonna fucking provoke a goddamn ghost in it.
Something in here.
I think so, because he said my clock.
Come in here somewhere.
He went, can you move my clock? I'm waiting for like a car alarm to go off. Well, he said my clock, so I'm assuming it's his house. I don't know. I was looking at the cars, hey, I was like, fuck me. What's that, like, looks like a fucking Ferrari or Lambo? He's got on the left. The right's clearly a shitty Tesla, but the left looks like some sort of sports car. Oh, is that a Bugatti? Fuck. Wait, on the left or the right? I thought the right was a Tesla. Could left be a Bugatti? Fuck me. Man's got money. And here I am with my fucking Haval that's only worth 26 grand. That's what I paid for it. Fuck. Nah, how do you fake that on
This
a car?
spirit must have been drawn to the high life, flicking the sports car's engine on and off in an eerie rhythm, savoring a taste of the luxury it had left behind. Tony on Reddit, a Gundam anime fan who collects small robot models, noticed something strange about one of his action figures. Its head moved on its own. Assuming he was seeing things, he decided to record the figurine just in case it happened again.
Wait, touch the house, but don't touch the fucking Lambo. Leave it alone. There's no fucking way. How do you fake that though? There's no
The
fucking
head on the
way.
white figurine in front of him began moving on its own, turning and
Are they
facing
like
Tony in
little
an
electronic
insanely creepy
things?
way,
Like,
as
yeah,
if
sometimes the
ominously
arms
staring
move
at
and
him.
shit.
These action figures don't have automatic turning heads, so what do you believe, real or fake? Let me know in the comments.
The car is sacred crap.
In 2013, a YouTube user named Zero Fox uploaded a seemingly simple video intended to demonstrate the various vision
Trent's
modes on the
thoughts his
Xbox
current
One
car.
Connect.
'Cause
What
he's
was meant
got-
to be
he
just a
bought
video
a,
accidentally turned into
BMW.
an incredible proof of the paranormal.
So that's like our sacred ground. We make sure that car's good. That was kind of weird. Yeah, well, we didn't realize. I kind of suspected that it was a German brand, but I didn't realize
There was
it.
a video a while ago showing the
Wasn't
different
until,
vision modes that the Xbox One Connect can do.
We sent my dad a photo of it.
And
Then
a
my
lot of
dad,
people said that it was
like,
edited
when my
because
dad said the actual
when I
German
switched
name
to
of it.
Vision modes, I changed position and my T-shirt changes.
Fuck, I can't.
To a completely different one.
I can't think of it now, but the
I've
German,
explained
like
loads
the
of times
proper
that
name
this is
for it's
exactly
big.
what happens with the Xbox One
Talking
Connect,
about
and
your
it
Beamer.
changes aspect ratio. But I figured I might as
Man's
well
Willy.
go one better and show you guys live.
I was saying that it's now the
so let me
baby of
just
the
switch on the
family.
Connect
We
now,
take care
and,
of your
like,
car
anyone
more than
with an
mine.
Xbox One Connect can do this themselves. and
Yeah,
see
my stream will be
exactly
done
what I'm
soon.
talking about.
I'll come out
See,
there
I've
later.
got another webcam
Sorry?
apart from the Xbox Connect to show
Fuck is
that it's all legit and stuff. You just go down to this. Anyone with a Connect can
Oh,
do
garlic
this.
bread, yeah.
And
Yeah, just don't eat it all
I'm
of me,
still here.
please.
I haven't transported to any
Save me a couple
different
pieces.
alternate universes.
The fuck you mean that?
Position.
Hey, what the fuck? They give me a slice now.
See, that's crazy, isn't it?
Zero Fox made it very clear that he didn't edit the original video. But if he didn't, then what the heck was actually standing behind him?
The big man had company.
Do you believe in the paranormal? Are you paranoid that someone's watching? The Paranormal Paranoids are here to guide you, with Peter, Laura, David, and Riley as your hosts. These videos were
I just had a
posted by the
fucking
Twitter account at
aneurysm
Just the
hearing that. What
Paranoid.
the actual
The first
fuck?
video is set at Keogh Falls, Ohio.
To most people, this forest is the same as any, but to the people of Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, who remember what occurred in 1994, these woods hold a sinister story. This is where it happened. It was almost as if she wanted to be found, wanted to be seen.
The crew enters a wooded area, and Riley explains why they're there. To the locals, these woods are the setting for a sinister story.
I don't think it's there, Peter. Yeah.
The video's too shit to see anyway.
Over here.
Okay.
Alright, what are we doing? Smile and smile?
Yeah.
Okay.
To most, this forest is ordinary, but to the people of Keogh Falls, Ohio, who remember the events of 1994, these woods hold a
Yeah,
dark tale.
but riddle me this. Why is this all moving when the video plays? But that's still as fuck.
Not paranoid yet? Join the Paranormal
okay,
Paranoids
moved
crew
at
as
the
they
end.
explore Dark County
But still.
Correctional Facility in their second video.
It all happened here. Inside of
How do
these
you
walls.
pronounce? I wouldn't even know how to fucking pronounce it, to be honest.
What was that?
The inmates that were brought here in the 1930s, they were maximum security. Did you do
Given
that?
it's underground, I'm assuming it would have been maximum fucking security.
What? How? You feel what? Cold. Please.
Yeah, well, we are under fucking ground, cunt, and there's no heater.
Wait. Look at this.
How far back does that go? That's pretty cool, yeah.
Fuck yeah, I'd go down there.
So we made it. Lincoln Elementary. This school has an incredible haunted history, dating all the way back to 1976.
That's not good. Welcome to this elementary school. It's very haunted. I'm gonna be very happy about it and show you a massive smile. What the fuck?
In their
That's the
final
worst
tour,
thing you can
the
fucking
Paranormal
do.
Paranoids delve into the eerie history of Lincoln Elementary, a school with a haunted past that dates all the way back to 1976.
Like, she's
This
way too
educational
excited to go
institution
into
has
a
long
building
been
that's
shrouded
haunted
in
that had
mystery and
children in
tales
it.
of the supernatural,
Like, that's fucked up.
making it a prime destination for their paranormal investigations.
Is the legend true? David, what do you think?
I don't know.
I hope those kids haunt the fuck out of her for smiling at the fucking unfortunateness.
Stupid.
I shouldn't laugh at that, but fuck. I could see her saying it, hey. You know what's annoying? When they fucking scream at the bangs, that's how you know they're fake as shit. Because, oh my god, the door's slammed shut. Oh, that was sick. I'm gonna watch that again. That was sick. No fucking way. Hold on. That was so cool. I'm gonna see that again. Wait for it. Hold on. Let's go slow because I want to actually see this. Wait for it. You know what it looks like? Those fucking horror actors. Oh, fuck, hang on. So we can pause it on him. Oh, it looks like a fucking janitor or some shit, eh? Like, honestly. Scared the fuck out of them though, eh? They're shitting bricks.
What do you think about the
Amnesia
paranormal recordings of
cosplay,
Jess
yeah?
and her friends, real or fake? Write it in the
Fuck
comments.
it though. That's mad. Oh fuck. That was good. That was fucking good. Alright, I'll watch a couple of these and then I'm gonna end the stream.
Here's 13 scary paranormal videos. Enjoy.
These should be good. The old hospital ones are always good, I've found. What the fuck? I don't know what that is. What's wrong? What? Yeah, Dad's home. Go and know Dad. Oi, give me like 10 minutes and my stream will be over. Hey, what the fuck? If she eats it... Bro, that's a chonky fucking dog. No, not you. You're good size. Wait, so what's happening? Is that just a scream? I don't get it. Nothing happened. What the fuck? Yo, that horse picture's sick. Alright, I'm gonna guess that something falls off the couch. Or something near the couch, that's my guess. Oh no, I was wrong. What the fuck, cunt? I'm so confused. I call fake. Just because of how stupid that looks. Like, what the fuck? It looks like a controller. You know, like those fucking PlayStation or Xbox? Yeah, you fucking see it too. What the fuck? That looks fake as shit, I'm sorry, but... Yeah, don't play it again. It's fucking... That was slow-mo enough. Just a floating controller. Like, that made no sense. Someone's in the bar. At least the kitchen looks fucking clean. Oh, is that it? What the fuck? Why have you got the zoomies all of a sudden, Missy? Oi! Now come say hello again. Good gal. Oh, Jesus Christ, she pushed me all the way back. She's literally got the fucking zoomies up and down the damn hallway. You're funny. Such a funny cunt, Ed. Like, I get people like remodeling their houses and shit, but why the fuck would you still keep the glass inside the house? Like, I would have fucking pushed that glass out and put in a proper wall. Yeah, the original version was filmed on what I believe is a fucking potato. Is it what's on the right there? I don't get it. What are we meant to be looking at? You good?
Astagfirullah, itu tuyul itu sebelah Jim, tuyul. Itu belakang itu dari pikiran sia. Astagfirullah, itu tuyul itu
I got a fucked up dog, bro.
Itu belakang itu dari pikiran sia. Pikiran sia tak bisa kena po.
Oh fuck, it's still this video. But they're so chill, they just stay with it. Like, would you not fucking move? Making Satan's use bleed. There's like an old manhole. That sounds like the wind making a whistle. Bro, what? How? What is this titled? Shocking paranormal videos. None of this is shocking. And none of it's paranormal. Mate, Ghost's just having a party in the fucking bedroom. I'm so confused. What the fuck? Honestly. What's with the fucking angle? What? This one's just a fucking door opening. I don't get it. Is that not him just walking down the stairs? I don't get it.
Thank you for watching.
That wasn't.
Don't forget to
that
like
wasn't
this.
footsteps running down the hallway. That was him falling downstairs. That's gotta be the shittest video. Yeah, look, the singing scared it away. That fucking looks like a floating PS2 controller. Fuck me. Yeah, I will in a second. I'm about to end the stream. Go with the kids away.
You gotta fucking
caught in the hoop again.
Yeah.
She tried to run down the hall. You almost made it to the door. And she's like...
Oh, fuck. I love this one. Ready? The dog has clearly left a small toy in the corner. Number 3, I fell asleep. Number 7, Uncle Jules is drunk again. Absolutely none of this came close to authenticity. Honestly. Honestly. Amazing. Who the fuck's watching this? Music more spooky than the videos. No offense to that person, but that was shit. Anyway, that's me for the night. I'm heading off. And oh my god. With Hazel in the background growling. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you guys in the next one. Check out the Discord for the new schedule, and it's also on the Twitch as well, and I will find a way to put it on the banner for YouTube. Alright, see you later guys. Bye!